Alex cackles maniacally and calls someone a fool for being deceived so easily. His companion, Soya, says tricking the boy needed as little effort as she expected. Meanwhile, an adventurer below intensely and repeatedly cast his holy light. The traders watched him struggle alone, saying they'll leave the rest in his hands. Bright was nearing his limit, unable to stop casting as the enemies surrounded him. Unfortunately, they were planning to use him as bait. From the very start of their partnership, the girl says it's only natural since his magic power was ridiculously high. With that in mind, he's the perfect treat for the undead enemies who just love absorbing mana. The high priest, Father Cuts, clasped his hands in gratitude, saying he helped their leader. As such, he should stick to his role to the end and meet death in the Lich King's resting place. While he continued to use his spells, sending flashes of light throughout the dungeon, his party members began stepping away. They mockingly looked at him, who was unlucky enough to be born with the wrong attribute. The poor boy pleaded and begged for them to wait, but could not run after the party. Soon enough, he was left all alone. His magic power was quickly running out, and he was in critical danger as he reached his limit. The Lich King is said to possess a double S-class item called the Lich King Staff. Just a few moments ago, Alex promised to protect him, saying there was no need to worry. Believing this, he walked to retrieve the staff alone despite being surrounded by coffins. As soon as he took the item from its stand, all the coffins started shaking, and the undead monsters burst out to attack the intruder. While he turned to face them, he belatedly noticed the king rising from the tomb behind him. A terrifying chill spread throughout his body, and Bright was reminded of where he was standing. Without anything else to do, he ran for his life, gripping the high-class item in his arms. Alex leaped down and called to his troubled member. He urgently asked for the staff, saying he could use it to defeat the leech. Barely able to catch his breath, the young man gets ready and throws the tool in hopes of being saved from his death. As his party leader caught it without any worries, he sighed in relief, knowing he was going to be okay. Instead of coming to his aid, Alex hugged the staff like a precious baby, glad to finally have it. Since they've achieved their goal, they no longer have any reason to stay in the dungeon. Bright calls to them awkwardly, wanting to remind them that he was still there. However, his leader's gaze changes and they just thank him for his service. Finally, the young man realized what was happening. Once more, he's left to do nothing but repeatedly shoot holy lights out. There's no end to the enemies and he pants in exhaustion. The spell is his attribute's level 6 ability, only capable of temporarily warding off enemies. Throughout his life, he was regarded as someone who was born with the wrong attribute. He can't defeat the undead or any other enemy because no matter how much experience he gains, light magic has absolutely no attack power whatsoever. While he ran out of gas, Bright thought of how it was unbelievable in the first place that a bottom-tier adventurer like him would be recruited by an A-rank party like Silver Will. However, he persisted and accepted when a familiar face made him feel needed. The undead screeched, stopping only momentarily after being blinded by his attacks. If the party likely knew the dungeon's mechanism and what would happen if he took the staff, he was a fool to have believed them. Now he can still see their faces vividly, smirking with their successful betrayal. The reason for choosing him was obvious, but that doesn't give them the right to feed him to monsters. Cursing them, the powerless young man vowed to survive and live. Although he was on the edge of death, he raised his hand to cast yet another wave of spells. The enemies kept coming, rising from the ground. His body wavered and shook, but the feeling of their betrayal burned deep in him, pushing his arms back up. Just then, a yellow window appeared, saying there was a level error with his light magic. The status screen kept beeping, telling him that something was wrong. Finally, his body fell hopelessly, and his entire being shook in fear. Before him was the leech looming with a dark and overwhelming aura. The only light there was his status, saying he's reached the upper limit and has unlocked an achievement. Bright turned to look in confusion as it says that he's achieved an attribute level up, allowing him to evolve from light to ray magic. His eyes quivered, shocked but hopeful nonetheless. In this world, there are two types of people. First are the warriors who fight with weapons like swords, bows, and spears. Second are the mags who wield elements or even capable of healing other people. There's also a category called attributes, but this factor only follows the will of the gods. 7 years ago, on the day of the attribute test, Soya received the fire attribute. Still close friends back then, Bright praised her, saying she had a really strong power. The little girl bashfully smiled, saying she would have preferred the wind element. With expression, she thanks his friend for being so supportive. She asks what he thinks he'll get, even wondering if he'll end up matching hers. Although he didn't know what to expect himself, he was just excited. That said, he was born with extremely high magic power and was the star of the orphanage. Back then, she believed that no matter what attribute he gets, he'll become an amazing mage. They look forward to the future and promise to go on great ventures together. Annoyed by the crowd, the priest tells the kids who were done to head home already. The two friends wave goodbye, excited to talk about things later. The nationwide attribute test is held annually for those who turn 10. Priests convey a message from the gods and tell young mags which attribute they have, thinking about how Soya got fire. Bright wonders which element would complement her the best. As he dreamed about doing well in the same party, his time for the test finally came. The young boy entered with a hopeful heart. Told to come closer, he approached cautiously. It doesn't take too long for the glass crystal to glow a bright yellow, indicating the light attribute. He froze, unable to accept what he just heard. When the priest quickly calls on the next child, Bright interjects and repeatedly asks if he's really sure, insisting that there must be a mistake. His hopes are crushed again as the man states that the gods do not make mistakes. The tears finally fall, and he says light is a useless attribute. Instead of being helped, the man sternly glares and asks if he's dissatisfied by the power given to him by gods. He's unable to answer and just says that he dreams of being an adventurer. However, with light magic that has no offensive power, achieving this dream would be difficult. Even so, the higher beings granted him a special attribute. That's 1 in 1,000. Acting as their messenger, the priest tells him to accept his fate, and his gentle hand crushes the child's hope. The tears don't stop, but Bright walks out of the room feeling crestfallen. His body shook, and he questioned why he was given such high magic power anyway. He wasn't asking for too much and simply wanted any of the 4 major attributes. The image of Soya and their adventures in the future flashed in his mind. Realizing this would never happen, his heart dropped to the ground, and he couldn't stop crying. 7 years passed after that day. The guild receptionist, Mel, welcomed Bright back with an excited tone. He thought he'd never be an adventurer, but there he was affiliated with the guild and completing quests. This time, he just came back from exterminating a goblin cave where he served as a baggage carrier. She says there's no reason to look down on it, as the party leader was really impressed. Since he carried their torch and everything else he could, they were able to fight without any worries. The young man smiles, recalling the leader as a stoic and intimidating man. Moving on, he asks if there are any new party recruitments, but there aren't any for him. After being diagnosed with the light attribute, he became the go-to person for odd jobs at the orphanage. Thanks to that, he got used to carrying luggage and cooking, perfect for a porter role. What's more, his extremely high magic power lets him use magic transfer to share his magic with others. They call and regard him as a magic tank, but a pretty useful one at that. Ever since the day of the attribute inspection, everyone at the orphanage became distant, including Soya. The young man ate his lunch with a smile, certain that he'd find a place for himself eventually. His parties are always temporary and low paying, but there are quests he can go to alone. This is enough to make him happy since he can pay for meals without any worries. Meanwhile, a few silhouettes watched from the other side of the window, identifying the adventurer as if they were looking for him. Bright works on the moonlight grass gathering quest. Although it was deep in the night, he stretched his limbs energetically, ready to get started. Making perfect use of his attribute, he lights the dark forest up. Moonlight grass is a medicinal herb traded at high prices in the guild, but the downside is that it can only be found at night. The young man finds one right away. Considering the effort and lightning costs, it's not worth much for regular adventurers. However, it's the perfect quest for him who can summon light at will and doesn't even need to worry about spending money for it. He spends some time on the quest, even humming joyfully as he works. Soon enough, he fills an entire bag with the stunning herbs, which give a soft blue glow. It's a big haul for him yet again. Just then, the status window popped up, indicating that his magic level just increased. Excited, he checks the details of his new skill, but freezes as he sees that the attack power is another 0. Although disappointed, he laughs it off, saying it's as expected. He was currently at level 9, just one level before getting maxed out. Almost everyone would say that working on light magic to that point would be useless, considering that there's probably no one else in the world who's reached that point but him. All that time, he held onto a sliver of hope, thinking that a high-level spell might have some attack power and that raising his level would also increase his magic power. He's come this far, and while he's at the bottom of rankings, he's still surviving as an adventurer. Recalling the priest who told him to accept his fate, he smiles rebelliously. The young man has no intention of giving in and will do his best to forge his own path. In the guild, a couple of knocks came to the door, and Bright entered with a cheerful greeting like every day. Seeing him, Mel perked up more than usual, and she repeatedly said that there was urgent and big news. Much more excited than he was, she thrust a piece of paper in his face. It contains a special request from the renowned rank party, Silver Will. His eyes widened in shock, and he screamed upon understanding what the receptionist just said. The two go back and forth as Bright struggles to believe that the party was asking for him specifically. After all, the very existence of such high-ranking parties was rare in itself. While S rank was at the top, it was basically an urban legend, and only a handful reached a rank status. Moreover, anyone who's up to date in the adventure world knows about Silver Will. Seeing that they want him, he says there must be a mistake as he just recently reached D rank. Mel insists it isn't so and that they send a direct request after seeing his promotion notice in the capital. It seems they are looking for a support member with high amounts of magic power. With this, he realizes that the reason he was picked was certainly to be used as a mana tank. The party supposedly has a grand sage among its members, so they need as much mana as they can get. These thoughts fill his head, but Mel cuts through the negativity, saying his hard work has finally paid off. While he is confident in his power, he doubts that a drank adventurer like him, who can't even kill a single monster, would be able to keep up with the rankers. The staff says he was requested based on how he has the highest survival and completion rate in the guild. Bright thinks about it deeply, already expecting to head deep into high-level dungeons. He isn't a beginner anymore and knows the dangers of jumping at such offers without considering the risks. The guild door creaked open as he settled on a decision. Everyone's heads turned as a woman walked toward the counter. Hearing that he's going to reject a request, the woman shouted loudly in disbelief. Turning around, Soya jumped into his arms, saying they have to go together at all cost. Shocked as her body was suddenly pressed against his, he asked who she was. This surprises her as well, and she stared in wonder, barely holding her tears in. She hugged him again, saying he's terrible for forgetting about her after everything they did together. Not comprehending what was happening, he turned to Mel and attempted to clear up any misunderstandings. Not wanting to be misunderstood, Wright looked at the woman and asked who she was. She pulled away with a giggle, saying she was just making a joke. She adds that he hasn't changed at all. He stared at her cute smile and flushed cheeks, which were almost as red as her hair. The young man's eyes widened as the image of his childhood friend flashed in his mind. He screamed in shock, realizing that Saya, whom he hadn't spoken to in years, was in front of him. The last time he saw her smile was during the attribute test, but she grew distant and left after that. Now her face was just as mesmerizing as it used to be as the girls celebrated their reunion. The pain of being left melted away immediately, and he asked why she was there all of a sudden. Just then, a voice spoke from behind, explaining that they were clients in need of his service. Soya turned expectantly upon hearing his voice, while Bright looked on in confusion. Greeting and exchanging pleasantries, the man extended his hand and introduced himself as Alex, the leader of a ranked party, Silver Will. The adventurous smile was as dazzling as light magic, and the D-ranker couldn't believe who was speaking to him. In the royal capital's magic tower, he's the person who holds a title above the highest archmage. Before him, shining like a deity, was the great sage. Wright stood at attention, his body moving on its own upon realizing the massive gap between them. Chuckling, Alex tells him to act normally and that his position isn't all that big of a deal. The boy refuses to do so. Their status and ranks were incomparable, and he looks up to him as someone with the failure attribute. The sage originally had the extremely rare null attribute, which allows the user to master all elements. However, as a trade-off, the increase in magic level is incredibly slow. Even if the level rises, magic power gain was minuscule, not even reaching that of a normal mage. Like the light mags, those bearing the null attribute are considered failures and quickly give up. But Alex refused to succumb to his condition and entered the capital's research institute. Through endless research, he somehow managed to develop a method that instantly recovers mana. With his, he maxed out the null attribute and became the world's one and only all-attribute user. When Bright Spirit was on the verge of breaking, he heard about the sage and was given hope by the story of someone who was just like him. With that said, he vigorously shook his head and refused to address his idol so casually. Laughing it off, the adventurer tells him to at least be comfortable and asks if he's going to accept. His mind still couldn't follow, so the boy asked what they were talking about. Soya clung to him again, saying they are talking about the party recruitment request. Finally, he realizes that the two must be in the same party, which she confirms by taking out a rank pendant. The recognition badge is probably the most official proof, so he staggers from shock. She says it's all thanks to Valex and blushed as she turned to her leader. He denies it, insisting that her own strength brought her that far. Watching them exchange compliments and take each other's arms, Wright's expression falls, understanding the situation. His friend has moved on to a completely different world. He can still see her smiling as a child cheerfully calling his name. Unfortunately, their history makes it impossible for him to not be hurt by his unfulfilled dreams. Just then, Kat suddenly held his shoulder saying he just witnessed shattered love. The young man backed away while screaming, while the man called him pitiful unprovoked. Seeing him, Bright recognizes the priest from the orphanage and questions why he was there. To his surprise, he says he is also a member of the party, which was an unbelievable claim. Soya vouches for it, saying she left the orphanage to become an adventurer and the priest did the same thing after her. The boy recalls how he looked down at him and was one of the people who called him a failure. It's still strange. After so many years, the two who abandoned him, along with the great sage, appeared without warning. saying they need him. The party asks him to join and accept a request. A warning was ringing deep in his heart, and he knew he should refuse. However, Soya says she needs him and asks if he remembers the promise they made as children. Coming close and meeting his eyes, she reminds him of how they dreamed of becoming adventurers together. When that happened, they were supposed to go on countless quests together. Convinced by her words, he says he remembers well and accepts the recruitment offer despite his feelings. Right accepted the request. But now the party has actually reached the Lich King's resting place. His face grew pale from the overwhelming presence, and it's obvious that he shouldn't be there. The difficulty of the dungeon level they were in is off the charts at a triple A ranking. The reason they came to that place was because Alex deciphered some text and learned about the existence of a certain artifact. It's an ancient technology that can convert magic power in the air and return it to the user. In other words, one can essentially have unlimited mana and will not have to worry about running out. The Great Sage was carrying a huge magic tank, one that he apparently made on his own. Even though he became an all-attribute user, his power wasn't that high, which is why he needs those tools. It's something the employer desperately wants, so he'll do his best to help. Just then, a gal appeared before him, making the weak young man scream in terror. Fortunately, the other members make quick work of the monster and save him in time. Alex charmingly asks if he's okay and instructs him to stick close to the formation. He ran back to the center to light the way, leaving the leader and Saya as frontliners. Normally, their combination would be considered a distorted party, but it's nothing in the face of the two mags. The two blasted through the enemies without any problems, burning and electrocuting all in their way, even laughing maniacally as they took care of the enemies. Wright watched in awe, stunned by the true power of an A-rank party. However, a certain thought came to his mind while they fought. Cut suddenly verbalizes it and asks why they would hire him instead of a warrior to easily get the coveted artifact. The boy turned in surprise, but couldn't deny that it's exactly what he was thinking. The priest demonstrates something and tells him to watch while he raises a simple staff. It shone and illuminated the area, working as magical lightning. However, the tool quickly dissipated as if being consumed by the very air around it. They are inside what's known to be a magic-eating dungeon where magic tools corrode fast. In addition, due to the nature of the monsters there, warrior types end up being nothing but a hindrance. It's finally clear why they sought Bright's magic and asked the simple D-ranker to join the team. They were looking for a way to produce light and navigate the dungeon when they remembered his magic. The priest says the others are only able to fight because he was there to illuminate their way. After all, he spent all these years strengthening his power, unwilling to let it decay. The young man smiled, understanding that his supposedly useless magic was helping the top party. Having taken care of most of the undead, they stopped for now and decide to set up a camp. Soya clung to the leader and whined, exhausted from the long day of fighting. He complimented her for doing so well, and she nuzzled into his body with a smile. The sight destroys Bright's mood. With this, they move on and allow Cuts to cast an intermediate healing spell on them. A green ball of magic rose and enveloped their bodies, taking care of their injuries and fatigue. It's just precautionary healing magic. And since he's already at it, he casts another area-wide spell rebuking the unclean things around them. It should purify the camp and keep them safe for now. Seeing this, Wright wondered if there was anything he could do to be useful in such times. Concentrating, he cast Sanctuary. The entire perimeter lit up with his magic, and they beamed in surprise, mesmerized by the spell. With this active, nearby monsters should have a hard time approaching. Glad that he's there, they thank him for his contributions to the team and say they are only able to rest easy because he's there. Hearing this, he's glad he could be of help to Soya even if it's just a little bit. Alex then worries that maintaining such high-level magic so strongly would make him overexert himself. The boy sheepishly assures him that mana is the only thing he doesn't have to worry about. While he commends the new member, the leader's gaze changes. He's really glad that the light mage was there. After all, the oblivious young man was going to be his sacrificial lamb. A large pot and a couple of skewers were set by the flame, which kept the party's camp warm. The priest and mage slept soundly, with Soya's head comfortably resting on the leader's lap. Meanwhile, Bright scooped some of the stew up and served it to Alex. He took a sip of the delicious meal and couldn't help but commend the young man's skills. Cooking was something he enjoyed quite a lot, so he's glad to hear so much praise for it. He answered brightly, but upon seeing the capable leader caress his childhood friend's head, his expression immediately went solemn. Changing the topic, he notes Alex's huge equipment and says it must be really heavy. The portable magic tank sat there, looking huge enough to actually fit a person. While it's heavy and cumbersome, he laughs and says he's built a lot of muscle from carrying it. The tool is an amazing invention for others, but for him, it was a necessity due to his null attribute. There are limits when using magic transfer, which is the act of sharing one's magic power with others. It's a general skill for mags, but the conversion efficiency is poor, diminishing half of the mana during the process. An item like that would be unnecessary for someone like Bright, who has plenty of magic power. That said, if such equipment became widely available, it would be him who's no longer needed. Alex says there's no need to worry about that, as something like that cannot be mass-produced. With its weight and bulk holding him back, he can't go where he wants to. Asked about his goal, he shares that he wants to reach even greater heights. This stuns and confuses the boy for a moment. The man before him became an Aranka and the great sage at such a young age. Clarifying his concerns, Alex states that he's aiming for the S rank, which leaves the lowly D ranker speechless. He's the youngest son of a count's family, but the only thing it offers is the name itself. Because of that, he intends to seize honor that outshines the prestige of any family, the S-rank title. His expression changes, now filled with burning determination as he vows to take it with his own hands. Bright was now getting worried with the unexpected demeanor. No matter what, he absolutely needs the Leech King's staff to obtain magic power and fulfill his goal. For that reason, he declares that he's willing to do whatever it takes. Noticing the boy's wary expression, Alex realizes that he slipped and apologizes. Now back to his smiley and kind expression, he says he got carried away while talking about his dreams. The campfire fizzles out as it's time to add some more fuel. He apologizes again for getting a bit too heated. Taking a look at the magic igniter, Bright gestures to the magic tank and wonders why the artifact wasn't corroding. With a sinister smile, Alex doesn't explain much and just says that it's a special design. While the boy is amazed by the invention, he thanks him for the appreciation and calls the magic tank his precious little partner. The party soon approached the depths of the dungeon, where the number of strong enemies increased. However, it did not matter much to the pair of mags who wreaked havoc throughout their journey. Bright could only look on and nod how powerful they are, seeping everything away like it was nothing. After a while, the group reached the Leech King's tomb, which was surrounded by countless coffins. At the bottom of the gravestone was a lectern, where the leech staff lay, glowing with power. It's been days since they first entered the dungeon, and the goal they sought was finally in their midst, contrary to the number of monsters outside. There were none there, but the coffins were basically foreboding a horrific situation. If the ones hiding in them were to wake up all at once, they might not be able to win. Suddenly, they called Bright's name and told the knave boy that it's finally his turn. With a sweet and convincing smile, the leader tells him to retrieve the staff from below. Not expecting the ridiculous order, the young man declined, saying there's no way he could do it. They give him a reassuring gaze and promise to protect his safety with all their strength. As he didn't seem to have a choice, the light mage hesitantly accepted, and only after that will he come to know everything. From the very beginning, Bright had sensed that something was wrong. He gripped the staff tight, but as soon as he lifted it from the stand, the Leech King rose from its tomb. Alex screamed, ordering him to bring the tool there as he could defeat the enemy with it. Believing him like a fool, the young man threw it with all his strength, shooting past the undead. Upon catching it, the sage laughed at the knave adventurer, saying he's too easy to deceive. He bids him goodbye, commending him for serving his purpose well. From their hidden looks alone, Bright knew something was wrong, but chose to ignore the warnings blaring at him. Ridiculed for most of his life, he was happy to finally be told that they needed someone like him. He wanted to adventure with the person he admired and prove to the people who judged them that they were wrong for doing so. Above all, he kept thinking about his time with Sire, who promised to go on adventures with him. Unable to forget it, he clung to the dream that they would explore the world and grow strong together. They did eventually adventure together, but now she was the very person who plotted to betray him. He gritted his teeth, trying to bear the pain in his heart. His light magic continuously flashed, hardly slowing the advance of his enemies down. Was he going to die in a place like that, used and discarded like a pathetic tool? It was ridiculously laughable. Although losing count of how many times he cast holy light, he doesn't give up and desperately ran, looking for a way to get out and survive the dungeon. He moved past the undead, pushing them back and clearing the way with his magic. The continuous spells were taking a toll on his body, so the only goal was to escape before he used his mana reserves up. If he fails to maintain his casting, he'll be devoured to the bone in an instant. The enemies were as unrelenting as he was and kept closing in on the poor adventurer. Finally, the exit of the resting place was within an achievable distance. He somehow has to make it there by climbing the tall hill and separate himself from the leech completely. Just then, his knees gave out and he started coughing his insides up. His body was a wreck, destroyed from internal damage. Based on his state, he realizes that he's depleted his mana from all the spells he continuously cast. Now he was no longer able to use magic. Unwilling to accept his end, he propped himself up with his shaky limbs. Crawling and clawing up the ledge, he sees a familiar box resting heavily on the ground. It's Alex's magic tank, the very one he carried around to replenish his mana. However, since he obtained the leech staff, there was no longer a need to lug the heavy item around. He dragged himself up the ledge and toward the chest. While the holy light flashes were about to die out, he prayed that there would be even just a bit more magic left inside. Reaching the tool, he wondered how to use it and if there was a switch somewhere. Desperate, he placed his hand on the tank, begging for something to happen. In an instant, magic surged throughout his entire body, and it was as if his reserves were all filled up again. It's an incredible feeling, enough to give him hope again. However, he notices and questions something odd. Having done it multiple times himself, he recognizes the feeling of magic transfer. Wright was questioning the familiar feeling, but had no time to do so as the undead appeared behind him. With his man replenished, he is able to cast Holy Light again and keeps the enemies at bay for now. While they are still reeling from the magic, he quickly strapped the tank onto his back, ready to carry it while running. One way or another, he had to move past the enemies and get out of there alive. As soon as he just about reached the exit, the leech watched intently. It glowed with power, and a green wisp of magic sped around the young man. Following the monster's demands, it whisked him out of the cliff and back to the clutches of the undead lord. He fell to the ground, and all his progress he made towards escaping just went up in dust. All he could do was laugh hopelessly. It's a common rule that one must defeat the dungeon boss before leaving its dwelling. As the adventurer raises his head, he sees a dungeon exit on the other side leading to a staircase. There has to be a way to the exit of the boss room after clearing the challenge. If he could somehow immobilize the leech, he should be able to make a run for it. The undead lord raised its hand, summoning a powerful surge of magic above him. Just then, dark blades began raining down, and is barely able to avoid getting hit. However, it does cut through the magic tank straps. Severed from his body, it fell to the ground. That's okay since his current magic was at full capacity. As long as he has this, he should be able to make it work even if it's against countless gals. Another flash of light comes. Since it's a low-level spell, he can use it as many times as he wants. The enemy staggered back from the blinding light. If he can hold them off while running to the exit, there should be a chance of survival. Just then, the leech swiped its hand, sending a razor-sharp slash at his body. The attack gets in right in the torso, cutting it in half. Feeling victorious, the undead boss laughed in triumph, but the young adventurer's body suddenly vanished in a yellow glimmer. It's left confused, more so when a figure jumps on its subjects and makes its way to its head. It reacted quick, but not quickly enough. Creating mirages gave Bright the opening to use the bulk of his magic on the leech. He gives a loud war cry, determined to break through the dungeon and get out of there alive. The plan is a full frontal assault using a one-man ambush strategy. Inches from the leech's face, he casts a close range and full blast of holy light. The boss squinted, blinded by the blazing flash that illuminated the entire dungeon. It fell to the ground. Although light magic deals no damage and cannot in any way defeat his enemies, he unleashed a rapid-fire cast of the spell that the demonic monsters hated so much. The flares came endlessly as the young man gave it his all, hoping that if he kept hitting that, their movement would definitely cease at one point. His efforts pay off as the enemy's arm turns limp and unmoving. While the casting ends, the light still stays on its face as if suffering from a long-term burn. Just then, Bright's status window popped up with the weirdest timing. He panted, exhausted from the barrage of spells, but stood tall as he saw that he had just leveled up, bringing his light magic's rank to 10. After so much effort, he's achieved the final stage of the light attribute and received the meteor shower spell. However, the distraction from the status window wasted the time he bought himself, and the Leech King began moving again. The enormous and spectral hand reached out to take his body, and Bright just stood there in shock and disbelief. The leech has recovered and smacked its hand on its chest, trying to squash Bright flat. Fortunately, the young man was able to roll away and escape in time. He woke up much earlier than he expected and was now moving in to end the prolonged hunt. A spectral green glow surrounded its body and its eyes see with rage from being barraged with holy light flashes. It roared and howled, making the entire dungeon tremble. The shock waves alone nearly sent the adventurer back, but things turned from bad to worse as dark pikes suddenly shot out of the ground. They were making their way towards him, and there was no way for him to evade. Emerging in a path, the rock pikes were indiscriminate with their victims, hitting even the undead. Bright was wounded and winced in pain, but managed to avoid a fatal injury nonetheless. The two enemies glare each other down, neither of them willing to fall so easily to the other. He recovered all his mana after leveling up, so now he can use the ultimate magic of the light attribute. Gathering magic into his hands, he shined with power, and it's as if his entire body was emitting blinding beams of light. Full of confidence from the new skill, he warns them that it's coming and tells them to tremble and despair. Several luminescent balls appeared in the air and rained down as the adventurer used meteor shower. The undead screeched and wailed as they were enveloped by the light, which exploded like fireworks. Meanwhile, Bright fell to his knees as the ability took nearly all his magic capacity in one go. After a while, everything turned dark again, signaling the end of the meteor shower. It was completely silent, and there were no signs of movement from the leech and its undead. The young man smiled hopefully, thinking he finally defeated an enemy with light magic. A low grumble echoed in the cave. Trembling as he realized what it might be, he summoned a faint glow of light. The leech scowled at him with its cold breath sending chills down his spine. The surrounding figures also started moving, and it quickly became apparent that he had not won yet. Against all his expectations, each and every enemy was unharmed. He opened his status window while stuttering and stared in disbelief upon reading the skill description. Meteor Shower summons a blinding rain of light, but as with all his other abilities, its attack power is 0. It was unbelievable that this was light magic's ultimate skill. This was supposed to be his only hope, but now it was crushed. After all, there was no way he would conveniently get so lucky and receive an attack spell at the end of everything. Like other people said, it's completely useless and a dead-end attribute. He laughed maniacally, then started cursing his unfortunate fate. Just then, he coughed and his body fell apart. Similar to earlier, he's reached magic depletion causing his organs to fail and rupture. A couple of meters away was the magic tank. His eyes looked hopeless and his body was exhausted, but maybe, just maybe, he could still survive with magic. The young man reached out desperate to get another chance at life. Just then, he saw a limp hand spilling out from under the box. He trembled in fear and shock, realizing that a human arm was coming from inside the tank. Seeing the human hand in the box, limp but still faintly colored with life, Bright was hit with the horrific realization of what it meant. He recalls his conversation with Alex where they talked about the portable magic tank. The image of his sleigh smile, while he called it heavy and cumbersome, was still clear in his mind. He screamed and cursed the party leader, who turned out to be more heinous than he thought. Everyone was amazed by his invention, even calling it groundbreaking. The way he spoke of it like an inconvenient tool echoed in Bright's mind. He refused to accept that a human was being talked about that way. He retched and vomited, unable to come to terms with the reality of it all. With this, he broke the box apart, promising to get the person out right away. As he tore through the pieces, what he saw inside was even more heartbreaking. There was a girl skinny to the bone and positioned like her body was forced to fit. He sees her take a breath of air and acts fast upon realizing that the poor child was still alive. Raising her close to his body, he's surprised by how light she was. Of course, she's light since she's a person whose sole purpose was to be used for magic transfer. To make the tank easier to carry, Alex likely didn't give her proper meals and kept her holed up for so long. Even now, as he held her tiny frame, he could feel her magic flowing into him like second nature. He remembers the feeling back then when he first replenished his magic with the tank. Lifting the box to his shoulders, he treated it like a tool, not knowing about the person inside. Pain and guilty about what he did, he hugged the girl, apologizing repeatedly for what he did. She was still unconscious, but magic continued to flow and surged out. The undead army closed in on them, but the adventurer didn't move an inch. Even after all that, she was still giving him her magic. He used magic light to push them back and thought about how he was called names, continuously ridiculed for having a useless attribute. The light mage curses Alex because despite everything he went through, he was never treated like the girl. Smiling slyly, the sage said he was willing to do whatever it takes to reach even greater heights. He used Bright to get the Leech King's star for his goals. And once he had the artifact, he discarded the child in the box as if she was nothing and even laughed as he did it. Unforgiving rage bubbled in the young man, and he swore to never let Alex get away with what he did. He carried the little girl in his arms, still using holy light endlessly. Intending to get out with her, Bright apologetically asks her to lend him her magic. Feeling pure rage for the first time in his life, he vows to kill her aggressor himself. They overflowed with magic power, and with a seemingly bottomless well of mana, he used his spells on maximum output and cast them continuously, pushing past all the undead. While the attack power was 0, the purifying light is unlike anything they've ever seen. As such, the skeletons couldn't help but make way for it. Just then, the system chimed, saying he's reached the maximum value of light magic. It continuously alerted him, but the light mage didn't care as he was too focused on moving through the army of undead soldiers. He vowed to escape and survive with the girl. His body began to give out, overstrained and unable to keep up with the endless use of magic. Wright doesn't care in the slightest and even tells the system to give him another spell instead of blaring its alerts at him. When it felt like hope was just within their grasp, everything suddenly turned grim and dark as a hot pain seeds from his chest. He lets go of the girl, unable to keep his hold on her. He fell to the ground with her as the leech impaled his body with its finger. Bright was on the edge of death once again as the Leech King stomped on his efforts to escape. It smiled mockingly and pulled its finger out of his chest. The adventurer was about to fall, but then saw the girl's frail hand on the ground. Driven by pure anger, he gritted his teeth and planted his foot down to push himself up. He raised his hand to fight back, barely able to breathe from the fatal wound in his body. Putting pressure on the wound, he refused to give up and accept death. To save the child beside him, he casts Holy Light again. However, nothing happened except for the status window saying there was an error. It blinked repeatedly and a grim feeling seeped into his mind. Feeling hopeless, he wondered if it was total magic power depletion. He was given multiple chances, but with his powerless attribute, there was nothing he could do. Just then, the window blinked again, saying he's unlocked an achievement for reaching the pinnacle of light magic. To his shock, it offers evolution and asks if he'd like to move from light attribute to ray attribute. Wright couldn't believe what he was seeing and did not even know that ray existed. It asks him again, making him choose between a simple yes or no. Never having heard of evolution, he stared in a daze, doubting the system's offer. With that said, it would be foolish to hesitate now, and the answer was clear. He reached out to tap on the window and declared that he was going to accept it. As his finger reached the screen, a shining flash of light burst forth. The window blazed with power, and it was enough to blind all those who looked. Finally, it turned into a brilliant but soft glow, showing the changes in the young adventurer status. The evolution was complete, and his light attribute had advanced into the ray attribute. What's more, it indicated that he's acquired a new magic spell as well. At the bottom of his skill list, he saw a level 1 laser. Bright stared dubiously, trying to make sense of the unexpected series of events. As he called to the skill, his finger sizzled with hot white light, and he winced from the burning sensation on his skin. A glowing nucleus appeared as magic power gathered and concentrated at his index and middle fingers. Then his instincts blared, telling him to aim the new magic at the Lich King. There was absolutely no chance before, but now as he directed his hand like a gun, it was as if he was being told to undoubtedly defeat the undead boss. Magic reached a certain point of concentration, and the system window instructed him to fire. With newfound hope, he gave a loud war cry and shot a blazing ray forward. Traveling fast, it sped right towards the huge target's head. The leech stared in confusion, not understanding the sudden development of the harmless enemy. It made contact, and the white ray blasted the king's head right off, its light shining on the undead soldiers who looked on as their king was defeated right before their eyes. The attack subsided, and Bright was completely frozen in shock, unable to comprehend what he just did. Bright was stunned silent, and even the undead army could not believe what just happened. They all watched as the Lich King fell, defeated and beheaded. Its soul and magic rushed out of his body, leaving nothing but an empty shell of the dungeon boss. The young man was at a loss, his mouth open wide as he tried to understand. His magic, which never had any damage, took the king out in one strike. He even melted the wall behind the monster with such high heat like it was glass. Trembling and with slight caution, he opened his status window. The familiar golden screen appeared, and it describes the laser as something that can pierce through anything. At the bottom was the attack power, which showed that it went from a 100,000 to infinity. For someone who was stuck with zero all his life, the minimum amount now was purely unbelievable. Finding it insane, he suspiciously asked if they were messing with him. Although their boss was gone, the undead monsters charged at him. In the triple A dungeon that's feared by everyone, the Gals are rumored to be a horde of 1,000. However, to him, it was the perfect place to test the power he's dreamed of all his life. Now, they were nothing but small fry as he gathered the magic into his fingertips. It shot out in a straight line, destroying all those that stood in its path. It's intriguing as even the phantom ghost was annihilated. Thanks to the evolution, his fatal injuries from earlier were also healed. His magic power has returned, and even if he's still beaten and bruised from all the fighting, Bright turns to the unconscious girl and thanks her for saving him. With a smile, he promises to escape with her. And now it's not just a pipe dream. Looking at the dungeon exit, he aimed his magic laser forward and shot. As the enemies are told to be gone, the ray cleared a path, and he continued to launch a barrage of shots, firing indiscriminately. Starting with the Lich King's defeat, Wright continued to take countless enemies down and successively leveled up within a matter of moments. With the power in his hands, there was nothing he couldn't cut through. Using it like a sword, he swung the ray across the entire room. However, this method seemed to be overstraining his body again. The adventurer didn't care and was determined to show the girl the bright blue sky outside. He vowed to take her away from the dark tank and the person who treated her like nothing but a cumbersome tool. Remembering Alex's face, anger filled his entire body, forcing his magic power to burst out. Bright aimed his fingers up and shot, ordering his former party members to wait for him. The ray shot out, blasting through the ceilings of the dungeon. Meanwhile, Silverwool was still walking back home when they heard a loud rumble from below. As they turned around to look, the blast of light bore through the dungeon's layers and forced a whole lot of the mountain it was in. It was so strong, the sunshine from above managed to reach them at the bottom floor. Seeing this, Wright's body finally gave out, and he fell to the ground after succumbing from fatigue. As he lay there motionless, a soft pair of eyes watched. The girl in the box had woken up and was kneeling right beside his body. Just before Bright aimed his laser up and blasted to the sky, the Silverwool party panted as they made their way out. They cursed it all, barely holding it together and stopping themselves from collapsing. Annoyed by the darkness that made them waste energy, Alex realizes that the light user had more uses than expected. He clicked his tongue, frustrated by the very thought. Just then, several undead skeletons crept behind them and launched a surprise attack at the unsuspecting sage. Fortunately, Cuts was there to jump in and save his life, ordering the enemies to freeze. Immobilized, Alex realizes what was happening and follows up by electrocuting the monsters. Soya dragged them away, saying they had to run and escape as fast as possible. It's getting increasingly troublesome as the skeletons woke up and went after them wherever they went. Saying she can't take it anymore, the girl clung to her leader whining in tears. He tells her to hang in there a bit more as they were finally near the exit. After a while, they managed to lose the enemies from their tail, but spent so much energy doing so. Told to light their way forward, Soya adamantly refused, arguing that she was already at her limit. Her words made Alex look at her silently and with disdain. Scowling deep inside, he deemed the girl useless. He let her into the party for her power and looks, but now he wants to ditch her. Since her fire might provide light, he benevolently reached out and hugged the girl as he claimed to need her if they wanted to get out of there. He can use light magic, but his limitations force him to conserve mana for emergencies alone. The girl still fights back and insists that he can just use the king's staff, which they worked so hard to get. However, since it was still an unknown artifact, he can't use it until after running examinations. Coming close to her face, the leader asks the girl to bear with it and hang on a little longer. Swallowing her fears and hesitation, Soya used fire magic and summoned a small flame to lead their way. It emitted a pathetic light and lasted for nothing but a few minutes. With all that considered, Alex silently concludes that she's just about due for a replacement. Thinking about the girl in the tank, he wonders if he threw her away too fast, but says he can just make another. Just then, they froze in their tracks as the ground shook and cracked from below. A spot before them quickly burned hot and turned red. They looked in confusion as the ground bubbled. And while they couldn't explain what was happening, it was fairly clear from the light that slowly beamed out that the correct thing to do was run. However, it was already too late as Bright's laser shot through the ceiling. Despite avoiding direct contact, the residual heat scorched their clothes, igniting everything and causing them to be enveloped in flames. Burning, they urgently rummaged through their bags looking for water to extinguish the fire. Unable to find any, they settled for any liquid available and drenched themselves as fast as possible. Soya unfortunately douses herself with something that smelled foul, but they hurriedly flailed around arguing that it's better than burning alive. They eventually managed to stop it, but are left with scorched clothes and sooty bodies. To make things worse, the terrible smell from the mage was still there. In any case, they stared at the huge hole and wondered if it could, by any chance, lead straight to the boss room. They looked up and saw that the sky was also visible despite there being several layers in the dungeon. Cuts thought about the leech in question if it was its magic, but said it shouldn't be that way. The priest then tells Saya to throw a few offerings down to maybe reach Bright below. She refuses, saying the boy was annoying and useless even when they were still children. Bringing the serious tone back, Alex says they are in serious trouble. If it really was the Leech King's magic, if it devoured light and was still alive, it just means that they were next. Finally, the two realize the gravity of the situation and how bad it was for them. They order Soya to summon light, promising to take care of her as she runs out of magic. The fire mage quickly summons a flame, not wanting to be the boss next target. With this, they ran as fast as they could, determined to make it out of there alive. Meanwhile, the light from above beamed several floors through the dungeon and shone on a lone body at the deepest parts. Bright's hand, which was unmoving for quite a while, flinched with life. Deep in the Leech King dungeon, the sunlight from outside traveled down and reached Bright's space. As he opened his eyes, he himself doubted the fact that he managed to survive the boss fight. The young man remembers taking a fatal wound to his stomach, which is why he yelled out in desperation, cursing LX as he shot the laser to the sky. He had neither healing magic nor any strength left. So how on earth was he still alive? When he covered his face to think, he noticed his hands roughly wrapped up in bandages. Eager to see who treated him, he snapped his fingers to summon a bright ball of light. He winced and grunted as he sat up, still injured, although completely covered in bandages. Looking to the side, he sees his tattered and soiled clothes. There was no way Silverwool came back to save him, and there were no signs of other parties nearby. So who could patch him up? Just then, he heard a low thud from behind. He quickly turned around the scene, and to his surprise, the little girl from before was standing and staring weakly. Her skin was pale, her body was immensely thin, and her hair was as white as snow. Wright recognizes her as the girl who was in the mana tank, hooped up in the tight space and sapped out of her own powers for someone else's use. She reached out and pointed to the ball of light. Snapping out of his trance, he realizes that he was using magic again and warmly asks if she's the one who patched him up. She silently nodded in affirmation, and he thanked her for saving his life. There was still a lingering scent of potions and medicinal herbs, which she must have used. Touching his body, he notices that he's gained muscles even through the layer of bandages. His evolution must have played a part in his rapid recovery, as it affects one's physical growth and even heals one's body a bit. In contrast, magic level improves based on magic proficiency, so it grows with more use. However, the adventurer level does not increase much unless you directly defeat enemies. Having taken on an entire boss room alone, Bright curiously opens his status window. To his surprise, his level doubled from the encounter and was now at level 30. It's undoubtedly the result of defeating the Lich King, while the other undead was just a bonus. For an adventurer, defeating enemies was a natural thing, but he couldn't do it at all until now at least. The wall marked with huge gashes and destruction, especially the huge hole boring through the ceiling, proved that this was no longer the case. Just then, the girl sneezed, probably feeling all cold. Worried about his little savior, Bright urgently rummaged around, looking for something to use. All his clothes are soiled, but since it's better than nothing at all, he wraps the warm coat over the poor child's body. She looked up at him curiously, unfamiliar with such kindness. Seeing her confused expression, he remembered something he forgot and introduced himself to the new friend. Asked for her name, she stayed silent for a while, and he couldn't help but stare at her features. She was stunning. And although her hair was white, her eyes looked like polished obsidian. Her lips cautiously parted, and she introduced herself as Yami. Bright smiled joyfully, saying it was a wonderful name. Despite the compliment, he received no reply again. That said, it's only natural for her to be quiet as someone who was cramped in the tank for so long. Anger flowed throughout his body upon remembering LX, along with the rest of Silver Will, who ridiculed his useless light attribute. Closing his eyes, he held it in for now. Speaking to Yami, he suggests leaving the dark dungeon and heading to this town for the time being. With hopeful eyes, he says he wants to show her the beautiful world outside. The girl nods. Even if they escape, there is no way he could leave her alone, so he needs money to move forward together. Since they've decided to leave, he asks her to wait for just a bit longer, adding that there was something he had to get done first. Since they need money for 2 people now, Wright gets ready to collect all the loot from the battle. Trying to help out, Yami gently took an orb from the ground and studied the item with eyes full of curiosity. Seeing the child's confused face, he explains that those are the cores of the undead. Loot drops when enemies are defeated, and they can bring it back to the guild for money. After all, there's no way Aguni was going to pay him the quest reward, and his equipment was all in tatters. Yami picked a few cores up, gathering them in her hands, and handed them to the young man. Seeing that she wants to help out, he thanks her with a smile. However, her breathing suddenly got ragged, and he noticed her body getting weaker. She loses her strength and falls into his arms, exhausted. Trapped in the tank all this time, her magic power was constantly drained, and yet with her fragile body, she treated his wounds with so much effort. As such, he lays her down and allows the girl to rest. While he goes to gather the loot himself, her beady eyes looked up at him, seemingly wanting to protest. Understanding, he promises that he won't leave her behind. Although they haven't known each other for a long time, the sight of his back was reassuring enough to allow the little child to rest, cozied up in the warmth of his thick coat. Running around the dungeon, Bright sees a bunch of items on the ground. Taking a closer look, he sees that it's Silver Will's bags with potions and tools strewn around. Confused, he wonders if they ditched their supplies while running away. Since Yami likely already used their potions and herbs, checks for anything useful. He rummages through the bags and is delighted to see Soya's spare clothes. It's great news since there might be something for the young girl to wear. Unfortunately, the Fire Mage's fashion style is far too inappropriate and ill-fitting for a child. Yami had nothing but undergarments on, so he had to find something for her to put on. Aside from her feeling cold, he'll likely get arrested if he were to make her walk around like that. He threw his head back from the nightmare and insisted that he had no such hobbies. Because of this, he remembers Cuts, who everyone in the orphanage knew was preying on poor girls. It was said that he'd take them in, acting all kind, then trade them away like luxury commodities. The idea of Soya being one of them hit him. If she started under the priest's ownership and was later transferred to the Great Sages, then it's possible that the 2 men were connected from the very start. However, things would take a sinister turn if the other rumor about the priest was also true. It's said that he used to sell the children directly to human traffickers. With the way Alex was treating Yami, it can be assumed that he bought her like a product. He gasped in shock, realizing that she was sold like a living tool from the disgusting priest. Clenching his fist, he seethed with anger, but turned around after regaining composure. His priority for now was to get the 2 of them safely out of the dungeon. As for the Lich King's loot, they could earn enough to live comfortably for a while. He tells the despicable sage and the priest to wait, as he'll have his revenge soon. For a long while, the adventurer continued to look through the area, picking up whatever drops he might find. Even the leeched ashes were worth a lot, so he had retrieved everything he possibly could. Lastly, there might be something in the altar that might end up useful. Clearing the surface, he pushed it open and was surprised to see what was hiding inside. Reaching in, he takes a large piece of cloth out. It isn't the leech robe since that turned to ash when it died, so the thing in his hand might be a burial shroud. Looking at it, he gets an idea. While he took his time working on that, the light shined down on the resting girl, but her slumber was interrupted as Bright loudly called her name and woke her up. Opening her tired eyes, she rubbed them clean as he apologized and said that it was time to go home. With a huge grin on his face, he reveals a beautiful robe and tells her to put the cloth on. Being pretty dexterous and skilled in sewing, he made it from the Leech King shroud. It looked perfect on the little girl. She's surprised by his reaction and twirled around to show it off, seeming to be happy with the item. Moving on, he called to her and reached his hand out. While it was a harmless gesture for him, her traumatic experiences kicked in, and she's reminded of the men who reached out and did heinous things to her. She closed her eyes expecting the worst, but also already accepting it. However, all that came was a warm touch, patting her head in affirmation. She looked up in surprise, experiencing for the first time the joys of a tender and caring touch. Staring at her with his big eyes, Bright invited the little girl to leave the dungeon together. Finally, Yami smiled genuinely, loving the idea of being with him for a change. Bright carries the sleeping Yami on his back while he walks through the dark dungeon. He remembers how he told the little one to hop on his back. Now that he is actually carrying her, he realizes how heavy she is. He thanks his luck that he goes stronger because of leveling up. He reminds himself that he is used to carrying things as an Iran boy. He looks at her face and thinks she is lighter than the things he usually carries. He also notices that she is far lighter than anyone in the orphanage. He remembers Alex telling him that she was heavy and cumbersome to him. He deduces that he intentionally lightened Yami up. The thought makes Bright voice out that Alex is a bastard. Yami wakes up because of it, so he apologizes. The little girl asks if he is okay, and he answers with a smile that he is fine. He reminds the girl that he is level 30 now, so she does not need to worry about him. He tells her to look ahead, and he shows her that they are almost at the light at the end of the tunnel. He comes out, and his eyes can see the peaceful side of the blue sky and the birds flying. They bask in the light of the sun. Bright laughs in relief, and Yami copies the sound he is making. He takes in the scenery around him. He puts Yami down and asks how the grass feels on her feet. The girl tells him that it feels soft. She smiles as she absorbs its comfort. He reminds the girl that the world is not just confined to a small and dark tank. The girl takes in the sights and how the world can feel beautiful again. Bright is teary-eyed as he takes a deep breath. He shouts out with his hands in the air that he is back. The little girl observes him and then looks at her hands. Bright wonders what she is thinking. She then raises her hand and acts like she is yelling out. It makes Bright laugh. He remembers how close to death they were in the dungeon despite being trapped in a box. He thinks about Alex and how they did not lose to him. He yells out to the heavens while Yami continues to copy what he is doing. Bright narrates how he had no idea how evil Alex and Katz are. He says that despite how happy he is now, there are still conspiracies that they have no idea are happening. Meanwhile, in Churchtown, the people whisper with discomfort about something passing by. It is revealed that Katz is driving a horse carriage with barely any clothes on him. The priest is trying to act calm despite knowing how he looks to the crowd. Soya and Alex are inside the carriage with their clothes torn off too. They are uncomfortable with the way everyone keeps staring at them. Soya screams out that her appearance now means she can never be married. Secretly, Alex is annoyed and wants to shut her up. He worries that they barely have any supplies and food left. He orders Katz to stop somewhere. Alex tells Katz that they need to rob someone for housing, clothes, and money. Katz objects to it. He says that guards are nearby and they can't afford to be caught. Alex asks Soya if she needs to wash up. Soya is conscious that she smells bad, but is still hesitant to talk to someone. Alex tries to convince them that a lot of people will go out of their way to help their party. Soya voices out that no one will believe they are Silverwool with their clothes. Alex insists that they kill someone to take what they need. Katz aggressively objects, citing that they would tarnish their party name if they did that. Alex gives in and settles to return to the guild for their funds and supplies stored there. Katz is relieved that he changed his mind since he fears being caught and endangering any future business prospects. Alex thinks about how judgmental Katz is when he commits so many crimes himself. Alex looks at his hand. He ponders why his magic has not yet returned. It leads him to thoughts on how Yami must have died already. He feels like it was a waste to leave her behind. She remembers how small and light she was to carry, as well as how she had overwhelming magical power. He thinks about his new Leech King staff. He remembers the powerful light and how the staff protected him from any damage from it. He ponders what the staff is made of and if it is cursed. He decides to investigate the staff once he returns to the capital. He also plans to make another tank if he can't use the staff. He sighs at this idea since the magic tank has too many limitations. He thinks about the trouble of needing to find a light and small person with high magic power to stuff inside the tank. He hates how test subjects amputated in the past to make the tank lighter died. His eyes get determined. He orders Cuts to get him a child with a high magical power of light or shadow once they are back. Cut says that what he is asking for is rare. Alex orders him to check all his connections for it. Cut answers that he understands and will do it. Alex thinks about how orphans with light or shadow attributes do not sell well as slaves, how children with shadow attributes are usually discarded quickly. He recounts Bright and how it was a marvel for a light attribute such as himself to stay in an orphanage for so long without being cast out. He makes an evil sneer as he pats himself on the back for doing them a favor by using trash like them. He remembers how he first bought Yami. He remembers how happy the little girl was to meet him. When he put the girl up in a prison cell, he watched as the girl's face turned to disbelief and despair. How she cried when she was given little and unappealing food. How he stomped on her head. He remembers how he loved her expression when he shoved her in the tank. How she cried so much. He grips his staff and laughs at how he will remember her suffering forever. Soya looks disturbed as she watches Alex laugh. He goes on to think about how nothing can compare to the thrill of trampling on someone's victory. He continues laughing as the others try not to say anything about it. He thinks about how he overcame the humiliation of receiving the null attribute. He thinks it justifies him getting revenge on the world and doing as he pleases. Meanwhile, Bright and Miami are still in the forest. Bright spots a nearby stream. He calls on Yami and asks for one request from her. Bright shows Yami the spring nearby and asks that they wash up. He asks if she understands, so she nods up and down. He rings her near the water and gives her soap. The guy goes to the other side of a boulder while he waits for her to get cleaned up. While he waits, he inspects all the food the others left behind. He asks Iam if she is done taking a bath. There is no response, making him worry. He asks permission to take a peek. He is shocked to see that the girl is still wearing her robes on the water and is not doing anything but looking at the soap he gave her. He approaches her and asks why she has not taken off her clothes before going to the water. Yami stays silent and only looks at him with confusion. Wright gets overwhelmed that he needs to teach her more than he thought. He tries to tell her that she needs to take off her clothes. Yami answers that she does not want to, since she thinks that they would be gone the moment she takes them off. Bright observes how innocent she looks. He tries to explain to her that she does not need to worry about it since he will wash them for her. The girl nods that she understands. Bright waits for her to be done taking a bath again. He asks permission to peek to check up on her. She sees that she is still doing nothing on the water, but staring at the butterfly near her. He wonders how the girl has survived this long without knowing the concept of even bathing. He reminds himself that Yami spent most of her time in the magic tank. He tries to think of a way to move things forward. He feels uncomfortable helping her wash herself. He convinces himself that he is now the kid's father to ignore the discomfort of what he needs to do. He goes to the water and volunteers to help her wash, albeit without looking at her directly. He tries to convince the girl himself that it is not weird at all for him to do so. After bathing her, Wright helps her wear her robes. She now looks sparkling clean while wearing them. He tells her that they will start traveling again while stopping over for food. He asks if she wants to ride on his back again, but the kid nods disapprovingly. Wright asks that she tell him when she is tired. They walk until sunset. Goblins ambush them from behind the bushes. Bright slays one with his laser. Another continues to jump at him, so he lasers it too. He asks Yang Amy to get behind him. He sees that Yami is not responding and is just standing while goblins surround her. They rush towards her, but she remains still in her spot. Her eyes remain without reaction. A goblin hand nears her face, yet she does not blink or move. Bright catches her and eliminates the goblins near her. After a while, all the goblins are in pieces. Bright asks Tsunami why she did nothing to protect herself. The little girl only looks at him with confusion, then her stomach growls. Bright sighs and forgets about it. He asks Yanni to stand behind the rocks while he prepares their meal. He wonders if the girl completely lacks survival instincts. He can't imagine what kind of life she must have had. It is nighttime and Bright and Yanni are getting their food ready by the campfire. The stew shimmers in the pot. Bright notices Yami smelling its aroma. He tells her that it is called stew. He explains that he used the ingredients found around the forest to make it. He points to the stew and teaches her the names of its individual components. He boasts about the 5 herbs and jerky they have to add to it. He gets the ladle and gives a cup of stew to Yami. He advises her to be careful with the heat. He shows her what to do by blowing his own spoon. She copies his spoon blowing, then she puts the spoon in her mouth. He asks her if she likes it. Her face shows overwhelming happiness. He loves how much she likes it and tells her to take her time. Later on, Bright asks if he can ask more about her to learn things about her. She nods with approval. He asks how old she is. She answers that she does not know. He asks her family name, but again, does not know. He asks if she can use magic, but still she does not know. He asks her where she lives so he can take her back there. Yami thinks about her answer. She says she lives in the magic tower, so the man says that he meant where she lived before Alex took her there. Guy answers that she does not know. She remembers the day Alex told her that she was his family. She answers that Alex told her that the magic tower was her home. Wright voices out how wrong this is. He can't bear to think what happened to her in the tower. He remembers how Yami did not move when she was attacked by the goblins, and he came to realize that she grew up in a place where she was taught not to value her life. He closes his eyes and thinks deeply about his anger at Alex. He opens his eyes as he feels something. He notices that Yami has fallen asleep with her head leaning on his shoulder. He observes how peaceful she looks and smiles. He takes away the cup of stew from her hand and lays her head on his knee. Tears come out of his eyes, so he wipes them off. He promises never to forgive Alex and that he will avenge Yami. He reviews how Alex used him as a scapegoat, locked Yami in a tank, and then discarded her when she was no longer useful. He thinks about killing the evil man. He pats Yami on the head and thinks about what will happen to her if he gets arrested for killing Alex. He imagines that she will get sold off again with no knowledge to survive. She imagines her having a terrible life even if she ends up in an orphanage. He swears to never let that happen. He plans to only hurt Alex to a point and take advantage of the man's pride that he would never tell a soul that he got beaten up by an orphan with a failure of an attribute like him. He lights his finger with his laser preparing for Alex to come hunting for him. He tries to move Yami. The little girl's hand moves to his. She pinches his finger. He promises to never leave her alone and that he will always protect her. Cuts is in the town guild and is frustrated that Mel, the receptionist, won't let him withdraw some money without identification. Everyone is looking at Cuts for how aggressive he is being. Mel reminds him that she needs his identification tag, so Cuts tells her that his tag got burned during a quest. She asks him to fill out a form to process a new tag. Cuts is getting frustrated and yells out that he has no money on him and has no time for these types of paperwork. He declares that he is the priest from the esteemed Silverwell party. Mel cringes since he looks more like a pervert with his tattered clothes. Mel thinks about reporting him. She nears her finger to the hidden security button under her table. Before she can press it, Cuts tries to remind her that she came to the guild 4 days ago with Alex. Mel remembers her introducing Bright to Alex. Cuts sees that she is recalling the events and reminds her that was there. The receptionist tells him that she did not recall that he was there. She tells him that who she recalls is Bright. She tells him about how Bright is trusted by the guild and that she will accept money withdrawal if the young man vouches for him. Cuts slants his fist on the table and tells her that Bright is already dead. Null gets silenced by the news. She frantically asks him what he means. Cuts elaborates that Bright is dead at the hands of the Leech King. Null gets silenced again. Cuts takes the renewal papers from her. He writes over it and submits it to her. As he leaves, Null asks more questions about Bright that the priest ignores. Cuts shuts the door on the way out without saying a word to her. He returns to the party horse carriage. There, Alex is frustrated to hear that Cuts could not withdraw any money. The priest explains that it is because all their identification tags got burned in the quest. He advised that they should just return to the capital directly. Both Alex and Saya reject the idea because of their tattered clothes. Cuts voices that the situation would have been different if Bright were still around. Intrigued, Alex asks what he means. The priest replies that the guild told him that they would have approved their money withdrawal if Bright had vouched for them. Alex asks if he told them that he is with the Great Sage. Cuts replies that he did, but that the guild still values Bright's name more. Alex slams the carriage wall in anger. He feels humiliated to hear that a low attribute like Wright is more important than him in Churchtown. Sawyer can see how tense he looks. Alex orders Cuts to sell the horse. The priest reminds him that the market rate for the horse won't be high since the day is already late. Alex replies that it does not matter as long as it can lead them to stay at a cheap inn. He believes that once he cleans himself up, the guild will surely change their attitude toward them. He swears that if they don't, he will force the guild to comply with him. Meanwhile, Bright and Yami already have Churchtown in their view. Bright proudly tells Yami that the town is where he lives. Meanwhile, the members of Silver will look miserable while walking the streets of the town in their tattered clothes. Bright and Yami are near the gate of the town. Bright is excited just seeing it again. His near-death experience and the evolution of his power make him feel like he has not come back for a long time despite it only being a few days. He closes his eyes and makes a fist in reaction to feeling blessed. He tells Yami that they are about to enter the city. He warns her that there will be a lot of people, but assures her that there is no need to be scared. Yami holds his hand. The man gets shocked, but it also makes him feel at peace. He looks at the child's face and wishes more than anything to protect her. The 2 guards on the post of the gate are shocked to see Bright approaching. They yell out his name the moment he gets close to them. They ask how he is alive. Bright has no idea what they are talking about and just assures them that they are looking at him right now. Both guards are happy and teary-eyed to see him. They ask him to hurry to the guild. Bright looks at them with confusion, but agrees to it. At the guild, people are gathered around a table with scattered flowers and a framed picture of Bright at the center. A priest preaches and Mel approaches the table. She looks like she is in deep and sad thought while she stares at the table. The teary-eyed person next to her reminds her that she needs to start the wake. Mel cries as she tries to start talking. He suddenly breaks down and yells out how she blames herself for recommending the request that got him killed. She tells Bright that he is an idiot for dying. Bright comes in through the front door and asks if they are holding a bad-mouthing contest for him. Everyone is shocked to see him. Nell, most of all, she rushes towards him with relieved tears. Later on, Nell recounts to Bright that a person with barely any clothes told her that he died. Nell is angry now that she thinks the guy who claimed to be a Silver Will member was lying. Not wanting to complicate things, Bright tells her that he just got separated from the party. Mel is so angry she plans to cancel the reissue process the lying man requested. Bright asks Mel if she knows any good tool shops. He says he wants to sell the monster drop items he got, but he is not sure where to go. He says he needs the money to take care of the little one he has beside him. Mel tries to talk to Yami and asks about how she got lost in the forest. Bright feels guilty that he needed to lie to Mel about how he found Yami. Mel thinks about which tool shop to recommend. Other people in the guild recommend the one in the back alley, something that Mel thinks is the right choice too. She tells Bright that the shopkeeper there is weird, but pays more than the others. She also warns him not to judge how the store looks from the outside. Bright and Yami start their walk to the recommended tool shop. Bright tells Yami that they will eat soon after visiting it. He is getting worried about how the alleys keep getting narrower and narrower the more they get near the destination on the map. He is surprised to see that the tool shop looks like a haunted house with its skulls on top of its door and wooden planks nailed to cover the windows. Now that he sees how creepy the tool shop looks, Bright is hesitant to enter it. He remembers how Mel told him not to worry about its appearance and how others of the guild also vouched for the shop. Ultimately, he decides he will go through with it because he desperately needs the money. He slowly opens the door and asks if anybody is inside. The owner inside is a hooded figure smoking a long pipe. They ask how long he will wait until he decides to come in. The nervous Bright opens the door all the way to come in. He and Yami approach the owner at the counter. He looks around and is still disturbed by how dark the place looks. He, however, sees that the items on display seem normal. He looks at the owner again and he can't guess if they are a man or a woman. Bright places his items on the counter. He opens his bag to reveal many dropped items. He takes out the sites he thinks will sell. The owner inspects the value of the sites. They suddenly drop their pipe. They stand up in shock and demand to know where he got these items from. Bright tells them that he got it from the Lich King's resting place. The owner demands to know if he is telling the truth. They ask what his attribute is to confirm if he really did defeat the Lich King. Bright answers that his attribute is light. The owner belly laughs. They think that he is making a joke, annoying Bright. They accuse him of lying and say that he can't take them for a fool. They want to appraise his items to see if he is telling the truth. Bright tells them that an rank party brought him along when they defeated the Lich King. She asks why an rank party would bring along a light attribute user. He answers that they needed him as a mana tank. They ask if he is the one they call Bright. Bright is disappointed to hear that they know about him as a parasite adventurer. The owner then asks if he has the Lich King's robe. Bright is about to tell them about it, but the owner suddenly shouts. They see Yami touching their skull display and tell her not to touch it. They then notice that Yami's clothes seem off. They grab a part of the robe to look closely at it. Bright tells them that he made the Lich King's robe into her clothing. The owner calmly believes him. They ask that Bright wait while they appraise the items. Bright asks them about the Lich King's robe. They answer that the robe functions as a magic amplifier when the Lich Staff functions as a magic emitter. The owner shows him 11 pieces of gold coins. They tell him that the actual value was 10 gold coins and 95 silver coins, but that they are giving him a bonus. Bright gets overwhelmed by the sight of so much money. The owner tells him that they did it because good items deserve a proper price. Bright thanks them as he picks the coins up. Bright is happy to tell Yami that they can eat a lot with the money. The owner asks him if he has more Lich King drop items. Bright answers that he doesn't and then leaves. The owner grasps their pipe and continues smoking. They remove their hood to reveal that she is an elven woman. She swears not to let Bright off easily. Bright and Yami go to the Food Street district. Bright looks at his purse of coins while he walks. He can't let go of the fact that he has never had so much money in his hand before, yet he is conscious of how many more drop items he can sell and the heavy bag he is carrying. He asks Anhani what she wants to eat. The little girl looks around. He finds a bakery filled with bread. Her eyes widen at the possibility of eating some. She looks a different way and spots donuts. She spots another filled with burgers and hot dogs. Her mouth waters at everything she sees. He tells the girl that they can eat whatever she wants with the money they have. The girl smiles with excitement and they declare a food binge. They pick up meat crepes and enjoy eating them. They also eat grilled skewers and large quantities of crispy wheat crackers. After all that, they rest up. Bright feels like he is in heaven for eating so many yet not even spending a fraction of the money he got. He feels glad that Mel recommended him to the store. He remembers the store owner asking him if he had more Lich King drop items. He reviews that he's still got the Lich King's core, its grimoire, its ashes, its dagger, and some leftovers from Yanni's robe. He sees Yanni looking at him. He asks her what is wrong. She points at another bread store. She tells him that it smells good. Bright laughs. He tells her that it is time for round 2. The kid gets excited. Bright looks so happy seeing her happy. Meanwhile, Alex and the Silver Will are at the guild and are complaining that Mel won't give them the money they need. Mel tells them that they need to fill out a form for it. She continues to say that reissuing their ID will take a week and a fee of 1 gold coin. Alex is trying to contain his anger. He asks that she give him a quest to earn the money. Mel replies that they need an ID tag to accept the quest. Alex shouts out that he is Alex, the great sage and the leader of the Silver Will. Mel says that she has heard his friends claim that they are the Silver Will. Alex assures her that they are who they say they are. Mel asks for proof by asking where Bright is. Alex tells her that he is dead. Mel looks at him angrily. The others on the guild floor snicker at his claim. Alex feels conscious that everyone is laughing at him. Mel reminds him that punishing a false report is a punishable crime. Meanwhile, Bright is already near the guild building and can hear the loud argument even from outside. Alex grabs Mel's hand out of frustration and insists that Bright is dead. Someone touches the mage's shoulder from behind and demands that he let go of Mel. This mystery person asks why he is claiming that he is dead. Alex is shocked to hear the familiar voice talking to him. Sawyer and Cuts also look like they have seen a ghost. As Alex fears, he sees that Bright is the one who is behind him. Everyone at the guild is happy to see Bright. The Silver Will members, on the other hand, look at him with fear. Alex, in particular, can't believe he is alive. Bright tells Alex with a sarcastic streak that he has returned from the grave. Alex slaps his arm away from his shoulder and backs away from him. The mage asks how he survived. He yells out that he left him in the boss room. Cut stops him from saying more and reminds him that they will be punished if anyone finds out they left him to die. They look and see that Mel and the others have not absorbed what the mage is trying to say. Alex is frustrated that he is forced to stay quiet. Bright asks why he suddenly has gone silent. He says that he will hear out anything they have to say with his partner. Yami walks in, shocking Alex. While Alex and Cuts are horrified, Sawyer is left wondering who the kid is. Yami goes to Mel and gives her a lot of desserts. Mel looks happy as she receives the box from her. Alas, he is happy to see that he used Yami's endless magic supply to survive. He asks if his mana tank worked wonders for him, as if to say that they are the same in using Yami. Wright looks at him with calm disdain. He remembers his promise to spare Alex's life so that he can continue protecting Yami. Alex demands that he return Yami to him, making Bright change his mind about his promise. Alex goes on to say that she needs to return to him so that she does not start to gain her humanity back. Yami can tell that Bright's rage is building within him. Alex then continues that tools like Yami do not need humanity. Bright remembers Yami holding his hand and smiling happily. The build-up of rage within Bright is at a fever pitch. The people start feeling the telling of the ground. Bright asks Mel to take care of Yami while he deals with Alex. Mel asks the little girl to come with her to the other side of the counter. Bright looks at Alex with anger. The mage thinks that his attempt to scare him is a bluff. Bright focuses light energy on his right hand and points this entry toward the Silver Will members. Everyone gets tensed up by Bright's light. Alex tells him that there is nothing a light attribute can do to him. Bright warns him that he is no longer a light attribute and that he will never forgive him. Alex is merely smiling at his attempt to act scary. Bright yells for him to take his account. He shoots his laser. Alex is shocked to see it. Bright's powerful laser pierces a hole through the guild wall. People outside panic as they see the awesome light. Mel and the other people inside are also as shocked. Alex is revealed to have kneeled to avoid the beam. He shouts at Bright, trying to attack him without realizing that he is now partially bald. Mel and the others snicker at his new look. Sawyer cries at seeing it. Alex touches his bald spot and realizes what happened. Bright sarcastically tells him that he missed. Sawyer yells at Bright and wishes that the Lich King just killed him. She yells out that he is trash. Bright comments on how his old friend has no remorse for him. He gives Alex a chance to apologize to him and Yami, but the mage insists that he does not have to. Alex says that they should be grateful that he made use of trash like them. Bright judges that it is hopeless, Cuts butts in to tell Bright that he offered a prayer for his sake. Bright replies that nobody asked him. He collects light energy on his fingers again and points it at the trio of villains. The trio joined their powers to create a magic barrier. Alex warns Bright that his magic has no chance of breaking in a rank party's barrier with a defense of more than 3,000. Bright shoots his beam and shatters the barrier into pieces. The trio races for the light to hit them. They catch fire, and they all roll on the floor to put it out. Bright sighs at Alex's claim that their barrier has a defense of over 3,000. He tells them that his laser's power is 100,000. Alex tries to crawl away from him. Bright grabs his head and slams it on the floor. Alex warns him that he won't get away with this. Bright thinks about the mage's habit of trampling and mocking people. He grabs him by the collar and punches him. He turns to Cuts and Saya and tells them that they are next. Mel suddenly splashes a bucket of water on Bright to calm him down. Bright looks at her with a calm temperament. Mel then orders the other guild members to restrain the three and hand them over to the guards. Men grab the members of Silverwood despite their struggle. Bright and Mel watch as the men drag the three out of the building. Bright regrets being unable to beat them down until they admit their crime. Yami approaches him and asks if he is okay. Bright smiles and assures her that it is over. He looks at Yami and his anger disappears. He tries to hold her hand. Someone grabs his arm before he can. It is Mel and she tells Bright that he is under arrest too. Men grab the confused Bright from behind. 5 days later, the 2 huge holes Bright made in the guild wall are still there. Bright lays his head on a table out of exhaustion. Yami tells him that he looks tired. In his weak state, he asks Yami if she has put on some weight. The little girl bonks him on the head. She tells him to be careful with his words. Bright remembers attacking Alex and letting his anger get the better of him. He looks at the holes in the wall. He tells the audience that he was reprimanded by the guards. He remembers apologizing to the angry guard for being so careless. He recalls writing so much paperwork and reports about it to the point that his hand is throbbing. The guards considered what Alex and the others did to him, so he was let go easy. He looks at the holes and how it will cost him 38 gold coins. He thinks it dropped loot that he managed to pay for it while still having some on him. Nell serves him and Yami their lunch. She sits with them. Bright thanks her for looking after Yami for him. Nell hands him papers that she says he needs to submit. Bright reads that it is a registration form to be Yami's guardian. She says that she searched through the missing people register only to find nothing about Yami. Bright realizes that he has not told Nell the truth about Yami yet. Nell says she also looked through the slave register, but also found nothing. Bright thinks about how slaves are luxury goods. She realized that Cuts must not have registered the girl as a slave. He finds it troubling that Yami must not officially exist. Nell suggests the orphanage, but Bright objects to it being an option for her. Nell tells him it is okay since Yami likes him a lot. She says that Yami kept looking through the window, searching for him every day. Bright looks at Yami, who looks happy after eating her meal. He offers to give her his plate too. Nell suggests that since he found her during a quest, they should register him as her guardian. Bright thinks of the possibility. Nell asks him what he thinks. He recalls how Yami gave him hope and power at the moment he thought everything was lost. He remembers when the kid slept on his lap and held his hand, and how she was the first person that made him feel like he wanted to protect someone. He asks Sayemi if she wants to go on an adventure with him. She answers that she loves it too. Wright says it is settled. Later, Mel gives Yami her own identification tag. Having one put sparkles in the kid's eyes, Bright thinks about how her attribute of darkness is even more misunderstood than his light. Bright and Yami hold each other's hands and are excited about the happy adventures they will have. They exit the city hand in hand together. A few months later at the Magic Tower, inside one of its rooms is a dark lab with a corpse in it. Alex is in the darkness, letting his anger for Bright fester. The Leech King staff is at his table. He swears that he will have his revenge. Bright is surprised that Mel informs him that someone requested him for a quest and that he is now a C-rank adventurer. He has hesitations about taking the request since the last one did not go so well for him. He remembers the time when Mel was also excited for him because he had a request only for Alex to betray him on that quest. Nell tells him that it is different this time because it is a trading company that wants to hire him this time. She tells him that it is only natural that a trading company would like to hire him since he is now known for being a skilled adventurer with a Ray attribute. Bright thinks about if he wants to accept it and settles with the fact that he will be able to handle anything that goes wrong this time around. Null confirms that the mission is considered to have a B rank difficulty and that he will be fine as long as Yami is with him. Yami is all excited, telling Bright that everything will be okay. Bright accepts the mission much to Mel's happiness. Later that night, Bright and Yami are traveling with an army of soldiers bringing horse carriages and wagons full of supplies. Bright sees that he has nothing to do but walk with the soldiers. He asks Naomi if he is tired. The little girl nods her head to say she is not. She then says that she is an adventurer. The commander announces that they will set up camp a little further up the road. Bright tells Yami that this means they will eat soon, making the little girl's eyes sparkle. Later, Yami gets to enjoy eating next to the fireplace with Bright. The commander of the group approaches them and comments on the little girl's appetite. He says that he heard of the rumor that Bright is the laser user who brings his child along with him. Bright goes on the defensive and tells him that he is not his daughter, but a child he helped out during a quest. The commander sits down and asks to talk. He says that he feels it is important for them to chat since they will be depending on each other in their journey. He asks him what led him to hone his light magic so much. Bright tells him about how disappointed he was to learn that he was a light attribute. He tells him how he did not give up on his dream of being an adventurer no matter how distraught he was. The commander praises him for not giving up and eventually changing his attribute to being a Ray 1. Bright feels blessed as he answers that he is right. The commander then asks why he is with a little girl. Bright tells him that she is an adventurer like him, and Yami wholeheartedly agrees. The commander asks for the girl's attribute. She answers that her power is darkness. The commander is intrigued. He admits that this is the first time he has ever heard of an adventure with darkness and light attributes. Bright reminisces about how the world does not value those with attributes like theirs. The commander asks what kind of spell a darkness user can do. Bright says he does not know. So the commander questions why he doesn't if they are a party. Bright answers that Yami has been through a lot, so he does not wish to let Yami do anything she does not want to. The commander says that as long as the rumor that he is a laser user is true, he does not see any problems coming their way. He informs Bright that a lot of his men are having doubts that he is truly a laser user. The commander says good night and asks that they rest well. He informs them that the guards will stay on guard for the night. He tells these guards to stay sharp. Bright is still by the fire and is thinking about how people will always have doubts about him because of his light attribute. A guard touches him on his shoulder while approaching him from behind. This guard tells him that he was there at the guild when he used his laser and just wants him to know that he knows they can rely on him. Bright looks surprised. The guard says goodbye and runs off. Bright becomes at ease and laughs. Later that night, Yami and Bright go to sleep. Meanwhile, the guard who knows Bright's standing on patrol. He hears something by the bushes and gets near it to investigate. Without warning, he is attacked. The dozens of guards on patrol panic as they see that multiple figures in the dark are surrounding them. Upon closer look, they see that they are a herd of ogres. Screams are heard throughout the battlefield. Bright wakes up from all the noise. He looks around and sees that the soldiers are battling ogres. He frantically tries to wake up Yami, but the girl would not be awakened. Bright sees that he must have been tired from all the walking. He picks up Yami and takes her to the bushes. He begs for the sleeping little girl to not move from her spot, and he runs off to join the fight. He stops as he sees a head on the ground. He realizes it is the same guard who trusts that he would be reliable on the mission. The ogres slice off the camp to put everyone in darkness. The commander realizes that it was the plan all along. Bright runs on top of a rocky hill and remembers how the guard who died expected big things from him. He grinds his teeth as he feels guilty and did not end up protecting him. He unleashes an orb of light while promising to avenge the person's death. He warns everyone to close their eyes. He unleashes the orb of light into the sky. Once in the sky, it explodes into a bigger source of light. Ogres and soldiers alike can't look at it directly. Everyone is amazed at how he has turned night into day. Bright then shoots lasers at every ogre near him. The guards realize that the rumors of his power have been true all along. Ogres jump towards Bright. A sin fell from his laser attack. His aggressive attacks on the ogres encouraged the soldiers to be more aggressive in charging the enemies. Soldiers and ogres fight throughout large areas of the battlefield. Bright points his laser-charged finger in one direction. He sees one ogre, but can't shoot it because a soldier is battling it. He fears that if he fires, soldiers will be hit too. He turns off the energy. Seeing that he can't shoot from high up, he jumps down to the ground. He bends over to aim from below. He shoots up to the ogre's face. The laser is so powerful that it reaches the sky after obliterating ogre faces. He is frustrated that he is wasting energy while crawling on the ground, but knows this is the only way he can aim without hitting his fellow companions. He realizes the disadvantage of his inability to weaken his laser below 100,000 power. An ogre sees him, but he shoots it. He complains about how his laser is too strong and is unable to find an answer to what he should do about it. The battle between the soldiers and ogres goes on. Bright looks at his hand. He feels useless in the middle of a messy battlefield where he can't aim freely. The commander approaches him and asks if he is hurt. He answers that he is okay and that he will be alert. The commander says he is suspicious of how ogres thought of destroying their light sources when they are not usually known to be intelligent creatures. They seem to be an organized unit to him. He fears that a named one is nearby commanding the ogres. Bright protests the possibility since named ones do not appear in B-ranked missions. They suddenly hear a boom. A creature appears and roars loudly. They see it as an ogre over 5 meters tall. The commander recognizes him as the one known as the Valley Keeper. He questions why he has shown up in a B-ranked quest. Bright aims his laser and fires at its head. The keeper dodges by crouching. The monster then moves on all fours, making it impossible to hit him without hitting the soldiers. He wonders if the keeper's aim is to go after him so it can get rid of his laser quickly. Bright informs the commander that he will take down the keeper. The commander wants him to take some of his soldiers with him, but Bright says he needs to fight it alone because he can't fight properly while worrying about others who might get hit by his laser. He runs off alone from everyone. The keeper follows him. Bright is glad to see that he manages to distance the creature from the camp. He sees that he has gone far enough and turns to face the creature. Tree trunks suddenly get thrown at him like they are meteors. He manages to avoid every last one as they end. He marvels at the keeper's throwing strength. He readies light from his fingers. The keeper gets ready for it by grabbing as many tree trunks as he can. He then throws it all towards Bright. There are so many trees in his way that he can't see the ogre. He aims at where he expects the ogre to be. He shoots, destroying many of the trees. He sees that the ogre was not behind them. A keeper appears a meter behind Bright. He fires at it. The ogre dodges. He fires multiple lasers, but it dodges them all. He realizes that the ogre is trying to stay away from the fixed trajectory of the laser. He sees that the ogre is smart enough to figure out his laser's weakness. Bright sees that the keeper will keep on dodging and backing away from him until he reaches his limit. He respects the creature's battle instincts. He remembers the bad feeling he got when he received the request and how it turned out he was right to feel it. He senses that he is in the presence of an AA rank monster. He is feeling conscious that the light he brought to the battlefield will disappear soon and leave the soldiers defenseless in the dark. He fears the most that his magic is about to reach its limit. The keeper keeps smiling, as it confident at its victory. He feels like he has no choice but to continue on. Bright smiles as he swears to show his enemy a laser attack it has not seen before. Bright worries that he has never used the technique he's about to unleash in battle before. He lights up his fingers while the keeper reaches for his axe. Bright is also worried that all the magic he unleashes in battle has already exhausted him. He believes that using his secret technique will absolutely deplete him. The keeper rushes towards him and Bright sees as its axe drops on him. He manages to dodge the attack. The ogre swings again and he manages to duck before it hits him. Over and over, the ogre swings his axe only for Bright to barely dodge every time. He sees a boulder behind him and hatches an idea. He runs towards it and jumps to the other side, hiding himself from the monster's sight. The keeper smiles, confident that he is a sitting duck. It raids its axe to fall on him. It breaks the boulder in two. Bright comes out from the bushes from the right side of the keeper. He tells the creature that he counted on how proud he was of its strength to hit the rock no matter what. He fires his laser. The keeper makes a big smile then dodges the beam. He suddenly realizes that there is a second beam heading in the direction he dodged. Bright declares that victory is his. The second beam hits the ogre and pierces through its body until it passes through it. Bright tells the monster that it did not see coming that he can shoot with two hands. The detached heavy head of the keeper lands on the ground. Bright goes to his knees. He tries to catch his breath. He shouts to the heavens that he is glad his plan worked out. He remembers how he had the idea of also fire from his left hand before they went on the quest. He practiced with his left hand, but he had a hard time controlling his magic with two hands to work before. Once he managed to fire with his left hand, his aim was still off by 50%. He once tried to hit a rock, but hit the tree beside it instead. Now he feels relieved that he practiced shooting before he tried it in battle. He thinks about how he would have used it earlier if he knew from the start that a named one like the keeper would appear. He hears the soldiers shouting. He sees from the distance that they are celebrating victory. He looks at the sky and sees that the light of the morning has started. The commander sees him and asks if he is okay. Bright shows him that he dragged along the giant head of the keeper. The commander permits him to put it on the wagon. The soldiers think that the ogres vanished because Bright defeated the keeper. The commander thanks him on behalf of his squad. He calls him the Warrior of Light. The commander puts the soldiers to work in gathering the supplies that got scattered while in the chaos. Bright says he needs to go check up on Yami. He runs towards the bushes he left her at. He sees the spot with the rock he knows he put her in. He goes closer, but he sees that only the blanket remains. He is horrified to see that she is gone. Bright touches the blanket and feels that it is cold. He remembers asking Yami to stay in one spot. He gets into an internal panic, not knowing what to do. He yells at the soldiers, asking if they have seen a little girl. They were too busy battling the ogres to notice anyone. Bright is left speechless. The commander asks him what's wrong. He tells Bright that he did not see Yami while he too busy gathering the name tags of the dead. Bright then suddenly runs off in a hurry. He starts screaming Yami's name. The commander orders his men to continue getting ready for departure and tells them that he will go after Bright. Meanwhile, Yami is still running around. He blames himself for bringing her along to the quest. He remembers leaving Yami in the lodge a few times while he was going out on a quest. Every time he went home to her, he saw the little girl unmoving and curled up. He saw how sad her eyes looked. It reminded him of when he was a child and had the same look of sadness. Bright hears the commander calling his name. The commander shows him the spot where he saw Yanni's robe on the floor. He tells Bright that her robe is too far from the camp. He inspects that while there are no blood traces, there are ogre footprints. Bright shivers at the thought of her being kidnapped by them. He tears up at the memory of Yandi's smile. His knees fall to the ground. The commander tries to ease his pain by saying that there is still hope that she is still alive. He continues to say that ogres are known to preserve their victims before eating them. Bright declares that he will go to the ogre's den. The commander warns him that they need to depart soon or else he will break the contract. Bright gives him a bag of money. He asks the commander to take it and return it to the trading company. Bright then runs off despite the commander's protest. He yells out that Yami is his partner. The commander tosses him a bottle of fluids. Bright realizes that it is a bottle of magic potion. He thanks the commander and then drinks it. He then runs again. He promises Yami that he will come after her. He thinks about darkness under the little girl's eyes. He remembers seeing the same every time he looks in the mirror. He knows it is the look of a person who was told by the world he has no reason to be alive. He realizes now that Yami is the only one who knows the pain he went through. He swears that he will save Yami no matter what. That if he didn't, he had no reason to keep on living. Bright looks around. He smells an overwhelming stench. He recognizes it as the scent of death. Nearby, he spotted human bones and flesh. He notices that they are all adults and finds a hint of relief that Yami is not one of them. He grinds his teeth at how the ogres treated these people. He makes a short prayer to bless the dead and to apologize for not being able to bury them. He promises that he will destroy all ogres for them. He sees a trail of fluids for him to follow. He runs while shouting out that he is on his way to the ogre den. There is a cave. Near are creepy birds feasting on bones and flesh. Bright is nearby and says he followed the scent of death. He wonders if the cave is the ogre's den. He sees an ogre with a huge bag over its shoulder come out of the cave. It drops the bag's contents of bones and body parts like they are trash. The ogre then enters again. Bright sneaks towards the pile of bones. He sees that one of its contents is an arm of a soldier. It disgusts him that this means they are eating the humans that they have been kidnapping. He fears that they might have already gotten to Yami. He closes his eyes and tries not to think about it. He tells himself that she is still alive and that he is going to save her. He nears the cave entrance. He sees a hint of light deep inside. He enters the cave and moves slowly to avoid making a noise. He reminds himself that just one bottle of magic potion is not enough to restore all of his magic power. He reaches an area filled with ogres. He also sees a man screaming for someone to save him. The ogres slice him up. Bright closes his eyes to avoid brutality. He searches for the others who are alive and sees that there are dozens of them near the ogres. He thinks of a way to go through the ogres and get to them. He concentrates and casts light magic on himself. It turns him almost invisible. He explains that it is a skill that distorts the light around him to allow him to blend with the environment. He moves carefully as he walks past the ogres. He moves by the walls to avoid them. He can see that he is about to reach the room of human captives. One ogre looks in his direction, making him nervous. The ogre looks confused as if trying to sense what is off with the wall he is looking at. Bright worries that it has caught onto his scent. The ogre is getting nearer and nearer to him. Another ogre calls the one near him to give it food. The ogre near Bright gets so distracted by how tasty the food looks that it returns to its post. Brights feel relieved. Meanwhile, the tied-up captives worry which one of them is going to get eaten first. They have lost hope since no one is coming to help them. They then hear an unseeable someone tell them that he has come to help them. They try to search for the origin of the voice, but see no one. Bright deactivates his stealth ability to show himself. They recognize him as the light magic user. Bright asks them if they are the only ones taken and if they also saw a white-haired little girl. They tell him that they did not see a little girl when they got captured. They inform him that there is another cave nearby, that he needs to go right where there might be other prisoners. Bright feels hope from this news. He leaves them with a knife to cut themselves from their ropes while he goes off to the next cave. Bright sees the cave nearby. He worries since he can no longer use his stealth light. He runs as quickly as he can, hoping that the ogres will not see him while they are eating. He reaches the other cave without the ogres noticing him. He is disappointed to see that there is nothing but darkness. He then realizes that an ogre manages to sneak up on him. The ogre attacks Bright with its axe. He knows its weapon will touch him before he is able to use his laser. He remembers the first time he met Yami and all the other times they spent time together. He apologizes for being unable to save her. A voice inside the dark corner of the cave summons dark magic. Black smoke-like energy covers the ogre's face and distracts it. It is so busy trying to get the smoke off it that it drops its axe. The creature is moving so frantically that it hits itself against the wall and incapacitates itself. Bright recognizes the voice and runs towards the dark part of the cave. He passes through the thick darkness and embraces Yami with all his heart. Tears stream down from his eyes as he continues to hug her. He keeps saying that she is alive over and over in his mind. Bright then notices that other people are also behind Yami. He realizes that they are soldiers from the trading company. They tell him that Yami hid them with her darkness power and that she kept telling them that he would come to save her. Yami smiles at Bright and tells him that she was right. Bright feels happy to know that she believed in him and protected the others while she waited for him. The people also report that Ye managed to escape her ropes and release them from theirs. Bright thinks of a plan to escape with so many people. He has an epiphany. He asks what other abilities he can use. Later, Bright asks Sayemi to climb on his back. The little girl jumps and gets carried. Bright then tells the others about the plan to run. They all nod in approval. Bright exits the darkness with Yan. The ogres see them. He yells at the ogres and tells them to go after him. While the ogres are distracted by them, the others run towards the exit. Yami casts a spell that blinds the other survivors with black smoke over their eyes. Yami then summons light from his hands. He scatters it like a flashbang, filling the area with intensely bright light. The retinas of the ogres get burned. The light is so intense that the other humans can see through the darkness over their eyes. Bright yells at everyone to run. All of them run to the exit. Bright and the other continue to run to the light of the outside. Bright worries that it is only a matter of time until the ogres get used to the light and come after them. Yemi asks him about his laser. Bright tells her that he can't use it anymore because he has already reached his limit. Meanwhile, the people are already near the exit of the cave. Behind them are multiple eyes in the shadows. Out of the darkness are the ogres already recovered. Bright tells the others to hurry. He yells out that the plan is to split up and head for the forest. He then realizes that Yami is transferring her magic to him. Bright pleads with her to stop since she also has little magic power left after using darkness for so long to hide the others. He thinks about Alex and refuses to use Yami the same way he did. Yami tells him that they are a party and that it is normal to help a friend. She declares that they are partners. Bright gets teary-eyed at her declaration. He becomes determined to get her help and thanks her, telling her that it is enough. He says they will go back home with everyone alive. The others find relief in reaching the outside world. The worst is not yet over as the ogres are catching up. Bright stops and turns around to face the ogres the moment he reaches the cave exit. The others tell him that he will die if he faces them alone. As Bright points at the ogres with his glowing fingers, he replies that he is not alone. He fires his laser with the highest output possible. The inside of the cave flashes with light. The impact is so powerful that the cave gets demolished like a building. Everyone cheers for their victory. They all thank Bright and chant for him as the warrior of light. They then hear something coming. They face the forest and see hundreds of ogres in front of them. Bright tells everyone to run. He recalls that he and Yami no longer have any magic in them. He tells the exhausted little girl behind him that he will protect her. He promises that he will return home with her. The ogres charge at the humans. They run from them. The exhausted Yami falls asleep and slips off Bright's back. Bright falls himself and manages to catch Yami before she hits the ground. An ogre nears the duo. Bright embraces Yami as he fears this is their end. Multiple ogres are coming towards Bright and Yami. Bright holds his little girl tightly and apologizes for being unable to save her. Thousands of speeding long objects drop from the sky. Suddenly, multiple ogres get hit by these objects, putting them in pain. Bright opens his eyes and sees arrows. He gets up to see that all their enemies are now dead because of the arrows. He wonders what just happened. One ogre efforts to get back up. The creature gets hit on the head before it can. The mysterious savior tells Bright that he made it in time. Bright is glad to see that he is the commander. The men behind him are all holding crossbows. Bright wonders how the people in the trading company reacted to them going back for them. The commander said he spoke to the man in charge and convinced them that it would be safer for them to wipe out the ogres in the valley. He also said that he came back for his missing soldiers. He pats Bright on his head and tells him that he was eager to return the favor. He calls him the warrior of light right thanks to him. Many birds are flying above them. One of these birds looks mutilated with multiple eyes on its head. It flies away from the others. Later, Bright and the sleeping Yanni beside him are riding a wagon on their way home. He remembers Yami telling him that the reason she left her spot was to go to the toilet. She justified that Bright told her to only pee in places where no one is around. The guy was unable to say anything since he admitted that it was what he taught her to do. He now plans to give her more specific instructions next time. He holds a bag of money in his hand and he feels lucky that not only was he not fined for breaking the contract, but that he was also rewarded with more money for rescuing the prisoners. He remembers telling the commander that he plans to return to Churchtown by riding the wagon. The commander questioned why he was in such a hurry when he was carrying around the head of the Valley Keeper and other drop items from the ogres he defeated. Bright told him that he needed to return to the city so he could sell them. The commander thought about it and told him to wait. With the commander's influence, Bright managed to sell the items to the trading company instead. After selling the items, the soldiers waved Bright goodbye. It makes Bright think that taking quests is a blessing from time to time. He looks at Yami's sleeping face as she rests on his shoulder. He smiles and says that the quests are only good as long as she does not get kidnapped. Elsewhere, there is the Royal Capital Magic Tower. Inside the lab, Alex hooked the multi-eyed bird on wires. It projects everything it saw in Bright's quest into moving images for him to see. He is impressed by Bright's ray magic and is happy to see that it has a weakness. He admits that he never knew that light magic would become this strong. The images show Yami. Alex is happy to see that she is still alive. He remembers how the other children he used as magic tanks died within a year. The surprise that she is still fine intrigues him. He plans to get her back as his perfect test subject. He also reminds himself to get rid of others. He looks at a group of malnourished and weakened children. He anticipates that the mass production of magic tanks will be completed soon. He remembers Bright beating him up, and he swears revenge for it. A servant enters the lab and informs his lord Alex that the research report has come. Alex tells him that he will come for it soon. He goes to the research lab where the Leech King's staff is being displayed in a glass tube filled with magic energy. He nears the staff to look at it closely. He says that there is something he needs to take from Bright to use it, and that he will retrieve it even if it means Bright's death. Bright returns to Church Town and heads to the guild. He places the head of the Valley Keeper in front of Mel. Mel gets frightened, so she asks Bright what he is doing. He informs her that he is the head of the Valley Keeper and complains about how a monster this dangerous appeared in AB rank mission. Null is shocked. She tells him that the Valley Keeper has already been reported to be subjugated before he goes on his quest. This confuses the man. Nell shows him the bulletin board where it shows a wanted poster of the Valley Keeper already labeled to be cleared. She informs him that it was killed in a town near the capital and that he can no longer give him the reward money attached to the creature. Bright tells her that he does not care about the money. He tells her that what he cares about is that many people died because everyone thought they were on AB ranked mission. Mel now realizes the magnitude of the situation and tenses up. Bright apologizes as he realizes that it is not her fault. Mel corrects him and tells him that the guild is indeed responsible for this. She promises to find out why this happened. Bright leaves the head to her and then leaves. Mel plans to contact the city. She realizes that because of the discussion, she has missed her chance to say goodbye to him. Meanwhile, Wright walks to the food street. In one of the food stands, everyone's attention is on Yami, who has already entered many bowls of food with her appetite. Wright returns to her. He is surprised to see that she has already eaten a lot. Wright thanks the shop manager for taking care of Yami while he was elsewhere. The manager says he does not mind since he promised to pay for all the girls' food. Bright feels embarrassed about his little girl's appetite and laughs it off. He realizes that Yami's appetite is only growing bigger. He wonders if it is because of her growth spurt. Later that night, Bright and Yanni return to their lodge. Bright is lying on his bed deep in thought. He thinks about the named ones and how sometimes one of them is misrecognized for something else among them. He thinks about how sometimes a wyvern is thought to be a dragon, how a goblin mage is misrecognized as a goblin shaman. He wonders if the Valley Keeper's one of those that got misplaced. He forgets about it as there is nothing he can do but count on Mel to figure things out. He thinks about his plans and whether he should return to the guild tomorrow to get a new quest. He worries that the level of quests around town is already too low for them to take. Yami appears with wet hair and pajamas. He congratulates her for being able to bathe by herself now. Yami hops on his bed while Bright wipes her hair with a towel. He thinks about how he wants to grow strong with Yami. He asks Yami if she wants to leave Church Town with him and go elsewhere. The little girl looks at him with confusion. He explains that he wants to focus on getting stronger so that they can become legendary S-rank adventurers together. He explains that being S-rank means having the top rank for an adventurer. Yami smiles happily at the idea. She hugs Bright as she tells him that she wants to reach the top with him. Bright can see that being the world's strongest is exciting for those considered failures like them. He reminisces about his dream of being adventurers together with Soya when they were children. He goes melancholy at how he needed to throw away that dream. He finds happiness now in fulfilling a new dream with Yami. Bright says the first thing they need to do is get up early, which the little girl agrees to without question. He also tells her that they need to go somewhere before they leave. The next day, Bright and Yami head out to get funds for their journey. On their way, Bright asks the little girl if she can already access her status screen. She concentrates. She is able to summon the status screen, but it is blurry and unreadable. After a second, it also disappears. Bright tells the disappointed little one that she was so close. He ponders how he is able to check what level Yami is now. Yami told him before that she just knows how to use magic without really learning about it. Bright thinks about how many things they need to register to live in another town. They head to the creepy-looking tool shop they went to before. Bright takes a peek to see if someone is inside. The store owner welcomes him. Bright is surprised that the owner is an elf. The elf is shocked to realize that his appearance concealment spell did not work on them. Bright guesses that she must be a dark elf. She tells him that she works part-time in their town. The man remembers that he has heard that some elves are known to live in the human world. The owner asks that they begin with the trading process. She gets shocked to see him place the head of the Valley Keeper on her table. Bright also tells her that he also has dropped items and monster materials. He places 2 jars full of ogre fangs and 3 bags of other items on her table. She asks if they are all part of the monsters he has defeated. He answers that she is right. The elf realizes that he is the laser user she has heard so much about. As a reward for showing her the head of a named one, she offers a tale only known to the elves. She asks that he call Yami to his side so she can hear the story too. The two are all ears. She tells them that there have been others like Bright who managed to evolve their attribute. They usually show up at times of turning points in an era. She continues to say that their lives are extremely short-lived. He asks what she means by this. Yami can tell that Bright is disturbed by the idea. She tells them that people who manage to evolve their attribute get drawn to each other. As if it were fate, they always end up killing each other like he and Alex. Bright recalls how Alex managed to turn his null attribute into all attributes. Bright reminds her that he met up with Alex before his power evolved. The elf tells him of her belief that they were called to each other. She sees it as nature trying to eliminate an imbalance in power. Bright feels uneasy that he might involve Yami in his fate. The owner reminds him that it is just a story, but advises him to still be careful. Bright thinks seriously about it. The owner asks that he take the money and go. He gets surprised to see that he has given him platinum coins. The elf asks if it is enough for him. The overwhelmed man answers that it absolutely is. The elf then tells Yenny to never leave Bright's side. The little girl's precious smile answers for her. After the two leave the store, the owner tries to figure out why her appearance concealment spell did not work on them. She realizes that she underestimated the power required to conceal herself from people as powerful as them. She deduces that Yami is the more powerful of the two, and that she can already be considered a weapon. She ponders the possibility of her evolving soon, and how rare it is to have 3 evolved attributes in the same generation. She finds it natural for her nation to take drastic action. She strips away her hooded coat and declares that she needs to get started on her plan. She demands that the two stay alive until they meet again. Meanwhile, Bright and Yami are dining in a restaurant. Bright thinks about his destiny with Alex to kill each other. He finds it hard to believe that the mage has given up on taking revenge on him. He decides that it would be better for them to go after him. He disturbs Yami's eating and tells her that they need to talk about something important. Bright reminds Yami that they talked about being S-rank adventurers. The little girl answers excitedly that they will become legendary. Bright tells her that she is correct. He explains that they can't become S-rank by just being strong. Yami is all ears. He explains that they first need to become a rank adventurers and do countless high-level quests. They need to get a recommendation from the guild while gaining respect from other adventurers. He finalizes that they need to become adventurers and everyone acknowledges. He says that the badge of an S rank cannot be achieved with money or influence and that it is the ultimate symbol of strength. He explains that this is why even Alex was working hard to attain it. The plan is to get achievements quickly by going to a big city. He asks her if she wants to go to the royal capital. Yami asks what that is. He reminds Bright that she knew nothing of her time there but the inside of the magic tower. He tells her that capital is the largest city in the kingdom where someone can get in a rank and the best quests around. The excited child asks if the food is also the best there. He answers that the important part she needs to know is that it is also the place where Alex is. He warns her that he will surely target them soon enough and that his plan is to get to him first. His hands shake as he tells her this. He tells her that she does not need to go to the capital if she does not want to. Yami declares that she is going and that they will always be together. Bright's eyes are filled with worry. The girl insists that they must go as a party. She proudly says that they are partners. Bright remembers her also saying they were partners in the ogre's den. He remembers how determined she looked back then. It confirms to him that the little girl chose him as her true adventure partner. He feels guilty that he needed a reminder that they are a duo. Yami then nears her face to Bright's. She offers him her food while insisting that she will go with him. Bright stares at the food making Yami conscious. He takes it and thanks her. They celebrate by declaring that they will eat a lot before preparing to move. Father and daughter enjoy their meal. Bright swears that he will protect Yami no matter what. The next morning, Bright and Yami sent a notification. The guild gave them the if and proof of achievements they can give to the capital. After that, they prepared the wagon and packed their things. Bright wonders why he did not see Mel in the guild. He recalls that a man was in her post when he was in the guild and that he could not ask why Mel was not there because the line was long. He regrets that he won't be able to see her before they leave. He promises to write her a letter once he gets to the capital. He carries their bags. Then he tells Yami that they need to go. The duo rode a swaying wagon for a day and a half. The driver tells Bright that they are almost at the capital. Bright opens the window and marvels at how beautiful and large the city looks. He gets overwhelmed by how large everything is the moment he stands at the city's huge entrance gate. As the gate opens, Bright tells himself he should not be intimidated. He swears that this will be a great start for them. The moment the gate opens, 2 spear blades are held directly at his neck. The guards are tense around him, but he does not know why. Stopping Bright and Yami, the guards point their spears and ask if they are adventurers. Turning pale from the blades, he says he'll show them their IDs if they just lower their weapons. Pulling away, they realize that the pair must be new there and direct them to the right entrance where they'll go through an inspection process. Although it's a really long line, they have no choice but to comply. Soon enough, they reach the counter where their identities as refugee and acting guardian are confirmed. There are no problems with the inspection, so they are instructed to register at the local guild right away. Delighted by the smooth entry, the two headed in with Yami excited for food. While they agreed to head to the guild first, someone from the line watched silently. The woman at the counter leaves and tells the next person to take her place. She holds a document with Bright and Yami's faces and says she has to report to Alex right away. Meanwhile, the pair of outsiders are mesmerized by the huge buildings. Walking around, the young man says it's undeniably different from their small town. The amount of people is so much greater, and so is the number of paths one can take. Following the map, they round a corner that should lead to the guild. Fortunately, they arrive at the right place, which feels comfortingly familiar despite being different. Cautiously opening the door, Wright slowly peered in while calling to anyone. However, no one there could even hear him as the sheer number of people made it too loud. Yami's stomach grumbled in hunger and she was basically begging for food. As he worried between feeding her and registering, a voice called out asking if they were new. He quickly turned around to answer. A beautiful lady says their counter is deeper inside the building and offers to guide them there. Relieved, he expresses his gratitude for the help. Introducing herself as Gerda, she shares that she's responsible for adventure requests and looks forward to working with him. She called to a co-worker announcing her return from her lunch break. To their surprise, Null was there and was told that there are first-timers who need to register. Bright recognizes her first and freezes as he stares at the friend from his hometown. She exchanges pleasantries first, saying he must be from far away, and stops speaking as Jani points to her, loudly calling the receptionist's name. Finally, she screamed in shock and disbelief, realizing just who the newcomers were. Sitting down to get settled, she says she never expected them to come to the capital. The young man smiles in delight, arguing that he could say the same thing about her. Mel was relocated as a liaison member to strengthen ties between the capital and Church Town. Positioned in between the two guilds, it's called a relocation, but was more of a promotion. While her workload increased, she's still working as a receptionist on top of everything. While they caught up with each other, Yami got her fill of delicious food. Moving on, Mel brings up the topic of the Valley Keeper. Reminded of the incident, he asks if they were able to figure anything out. She tried to dig deeper in the capital, but things started getting rather vague in the middle. The adventurer who defeated the first was nowhere to be found along with the guild members involved. As he thought, the entire thing was planned, and he had an idea who was behind it. He asks about Alex, surprised that he's asking about the sage. She says she hasn't heard anything and cautiously asks if he came to the capital with a dark agenda against his former teammate. She's already come to a conclusion and warns that causing such trouble in the capital would end with him exiled. Laughing it off, he says he came to the capital with the sole purpose of getting stronger. It's just that his whereabouts are currently unknown, so he ended up getting a bit worried. Mel argues that he has bigger things to worry about, especially with Yami now under his wing. Bright gives her a joyful smile, unable to admit that he came to finish Alex off as she would object vehemently. For now, he lets her fawn over the child he brought, and he silently apologizes for not being able to tell her the truth. Asked if there are any available rooms to rent, she promises to have it set up right away. The two friends share a warm smile, glad to have a familiar face to rely on in the new world. With all that done, they head back to Gerda, who wonders if they are already finished talking. Her peer thanks her for her help, but there's another task at hand. Surprisingly, Bright already wants to take on a quest, but all the new ones have already been taken. The only ones left are the missions nobody wanted to do for a variety of reasons. The adventurer has no problems with this and points to 4 he wants to take on the spot. Adding one last request, he collects the papers and pays the information fee, asking them to mark the locations and list the monster details by tomorrow morning. Mel, who supposedly knows about his strength, still can't help but worry for his safety. However, he's as prepared as he could be and reminds her of his goal of getting stronger. The two receptionists are silenced, feeling oddly reassured by the confidence in his tone. With this, he calls to Yami and says it's finally time to look for even more food. The small girl nearly drools, excited by the thought of feasting. Meanwhile, in the magic tower, Alex has received news of Bright's arrival and asked someone if their preparations are done. To his side, a dark figure assures him that it's finished and to leave things to them. Alex won't allow his sworn enemies to do as they please while they are in the capital. The sinister figure beside him stuttered and begged, asking for something fast. Smiling darkly at the pathetic being, he grants the request, reminding them that he's the only one who could save them. Meanwhile, the sun sets, covering the capital in a deep orange hue. As the city lights started turning on, Mel sighed hard, wondering if her friends were okay. Gerda overhears and asks if she's worrying about the two from Church Town. Having taken 5 quests no one wanted, they set off right away the previous morning. Bright is a B rank adventurer, but he took a few A rank quests as well. The reason why nobody accepted them is because their quests, even the king's army couldn't do. As they were speaking, a robed figure sped past the crowd. Mel says they should do something if a week passes without the adventurers contacting them. While they even considered sending a search party from the guild, a dirty set of hands pushed the doors open. Their eyes widened in shock as Bright entered the building looking beaten and exhausted. They rushed at him looking extremely worried. Seeing him pant and barely standing, they tried to aid the young man and asked if he's hurt anywhere. They realize that he's all alone and start to question what happened to Yami. He looks at her with dull eyes and points to the space outside. There, they see the little girl happily playing and looking at the horse excrements. He says he was foolish to take only 2 courses for dropped items worth 5 separate requests. The receptionist is confused, not knowing what he was talking about. Taking a look at the horses behind, they see them carrying piles of baggage on their backs. The lady screamed in shock, unable to believe what they were seeing. Nell finds it impossible as he claims to have finished all those missions in just a day and a half. He says they were simple, but since they had to use Yami's steed for the drops, they had to walk all the way back. With this, the adventurer fell from exhaustion as his fatigue took over his body. Meanwhile, the people have begun to talk about the pair who finished 5 unwanted quests in one go. After 2 days of resting, Wright returned to the guild saying he wanted to take on another set of unwanted missions. This time, he intends to take 3 courses, so it should be no problem, especially with Yami having a ride. The receptionist falls silent, finding it difficult to believe her ears. Moving on, he follows up on Alex and asks if she's learned anything new about him. It seems he got out of prison after paying a huge amount of money and even reclaimed the leech staff. It's as he thought, and the sage was even back at the tower. Since he's back in the capital, he's free to do anything he wants and likely knows about them being there. Mel then scolds him again, telling him to protect Yami at all costs. He smiles affirmingly, already intending to do that without being told. What he's doing now is baiting and making his existence appealing enough to make the sage take action. In other words, it's a plot to make them face each other again. The sun shined calmly, but a monster broke the serene silence with a deepening roar. However, it stood no chance and fell in an instant as Bright shot his ray magic at it. A couple of flying beasts came next, nose-diving at him from above. This time was not any different as he quickly took them out with a couple of shots from his finger. The rank monsters in his quest are strong, and they usually come in large groups. It's the same case for this mission. However, as long as it isn't a messy battle like before, they aren't much of a problem. Practicing their teamwork, he signals Yami to make her move. She uses the dark attribute and summons black energy to cover the eyes of their enemies. Raising his fingers on both hands, he unleashed a barrage of rays on the blinded beasts who are no match for their pairing. With their enemies defeated, the two bumped their fists in celebration, ending another quest victoriously. As they later walked through the city, people stared, pointed, and talked. Before long, Wright and Yanni became ventures whose names were well known throughout the capital. Like always, they entered the guild with a smile, announcing that they finished their quest. However, upon hearing this, Gerda replied with an oddly troubled tone. Confused, he looked around and noticed that the atmosphere in the entire guild was cold. He looked around and turned back to the receptionist, cautiously asking if something happened. As Nell approached, he felt a sliver of hope and questioned her instead. However, her face was the most serious he had ever seen, and she says he just did something unprecedented. Bright turns pale and starts to sweat, not knowing what was happening.